Hello and welcome. It is July 17th, 2021. It is TheoryCraft, episode 20, guys. Episode 20. Can you believe it? We made it. That means it's been at least 20 weeks since we started. A little bit longer because I think we've taken 3 weeks off. So we're almost at the 6-month mark of our journey with this show. I still don't know what the hell this show even is, but, it's been a while. It's been fun. How's it going? I have a question before everything starts. Well, it started, but I'll still answer the question. Why is the one base strat of Undead work so well? Well, I would say typically Undead is very strong if they're able to tech to tier 3 early. They have a lot of power spikes when they get high-tech units. They get Destroyers, which is very good in the current meta because there's lots of Keeper of the Grove, lots of Farseer, for instance, lots of Cryptlord and Mir. They also get their Orb, which happens to be the strongest orb in the game and a very crucial part of their army because of how their army works. So they get a lot of strong things at tier 3, so playing one base allows you to get tier 3 as early as possible, which is why one base is so strong with Undead most of the time. Hope that answers your question. But yeah, guys, how's it going? Episode 20. Oh, today is, of course, Undead Day, as we answer an Undead question. Yeah, last week was Community Replay Review. We had a lot of human replays. But don't worry, I'm sure we'll have some other races next month, right, guys? I don't know when that episode's going to be. Probably on the 8th, July 8th. So, yeah, don't think you have to send me your replays in the same week we're having the episode, right? You can send me the replay whenever you want. You can send it to me right now. Carson at backtowarcraft.com, or you can join our Discord. I have some questions. Those of you that have asked some questions in the TheoryCraft Discord, in the Back to Warcraft, or the TheoryCraft channel in the Back to Warcraft Discord, I'm getting to them. I will answer your questions. Don't worry. If you ask me something in there, if you ask me, I will answer. It's just a matter of time. So there's a couple of things I got to get around to responding in that channel, but I will respond if you guys have questions or, of course, suggestions. I suppose I haven't asked for those in a while, but I did. I tried to make sure to do that for at least the first 5 or 6 episodes, but if you have any ways you think the show could improve, we're 20 episodes in, doesn't mean we can't improve a bunch of stuff. We can improve a whole lot. So if you have suggestions on things that can improve, absolutely just leave that in the TheoryCraft channel. Send me an email, whatever you want. There's been things that people have said. A Meister Eater89 with the Prime. He says 1.5 year already. But how can you not love this channel? These 4 outstanding guys. Thank you very much, Meister. Appreciate you. 18 months total, 5 months in a row. Thank you. But yeah, I've made some changes to the show based on what people have suggested to me, so absolutely willing to change some stuff because of it. Luck asks, or Lucker, I suppose. Luck is also an orc player. How do the community replay reviews work? Well, you send me a replay, and as long as it's not about 3 hours long, I would say as long as it's like 25 minutes or less, generally the best replays to send if you're looking for feedback on them would be replay games where you lose and don't know why, or games where you thought you played pretty well and you still lost, sort of thing. Those are typically the best replays to learn from. Not most often do you learn a lot from games you won. So yeah, and it is, within reason, right? Within reason. They have 1v1 replays that aren't too long. Just keep in mind that I have to watch other people's replays as well. I try to watch at least 6 in an episode, right? So I can't watch 6 hour-long replays. And believe me, I do get hour-long replays submitted at times. Very often, actually. So those are probably the only limitations. Past that, I mean, we did a 1-2-0 game last week against Agent. Agent submitted it. Like, there's no skill ceiling or floor for what could be submitted. Whatever you guys want. All right. What else is that? Next week is the interview. And do you guys know who I'm interviewing? I don't think I've said it. I hope I haven't, at least. This last interview was Starshape, before that Thorzane, before that Todd, before that Bidu. So for interview number 5, we have... and it will be on a different day. It'll be on Tuesday, because that's the day that we could make it work. We'll be interviewing X-Lord. Woo! Yeah! X-Lord! Woo! And it will be on a different day. It's going to be on Tuesday, June 22nd. And that'll be at 9 p.m. CEST, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. EST. It's essentially the same time the show starts, but an hour earlier. An hour earlier than now is when we're going to be doing it, and it'll be on Tuesday. But don't worry, if you guys are busy on Tuesdays or whatever, here's what I'll do. I'll do the interview live, right, like I always do. And then I'll just upload it to YouTube the same time the show would normally be live. Right? So then if you can't catch it live on Tuesday, it'll be on YouTube at the regular scheduled time. And those of you that watch on YouTube, you'll have an interview just a day earlier than normal. And of course, this isn't something I've really asked of you guys in the past, but I mean, if you have questions that you want to send me, if you want to email me some questions, or you want to again join the Discord, which I recommend you do, if you want to ask me stuff, if you have questions you want to ask Eer0, let me know, dude. I could always compile a list of questions if there is enough from you guys. You could send them at this email, or you can join the Back to Warcraft Discord, and then you can go to the TheoryCraft channel, like that. Right? If you have some questions, I don't know if you guys will. We always take questions from the chat at the end, or at least we try to if the interview isn't going off into a different area, right? Well, you have a question? Well, send me that question. If you type it in chat, I will not remember it. What will this interview be about? Well, I haven't started doing any research or getting any questions together or anything, but generally we try to focus on the game. We generally go through the player's history. And a lot of the time, pretty much actually in every interview we've done, although this will only be my 5th interview, we generally go off on tangents and talk about the game. Right. With Starshaped, we talked a lot about like off racing and what it's like to learn different races when you main a particular race and things like that. With Thorzane, we talked a lot about mentality. Right. With Todd, of course, we focused a lot on his history because he has such a long history. With Bidu, we talked about, from a manager or coach perspective, like what the perspectives on players are and player mentality and player marketability, stuff like that. So but mostly I'll try to focus on the game as much as I can and their history in the game, and then we'll just see where it takes us. If we want to talk about toothpaste for an hour, that's absolutely fine. Talk about whatever we want. Right? But yeah, again, it'll be try to focus on the game. Won't be talking about pizza. Or at least that won't be my leading question most of the time, right? So yeah, that'll be on Tuesday, and then of course we just won't have a show on Thursday, right? Because that's too much planning. It's be 2 shows in 2 days. All right, I'm not gonna do that. So the Thursday show will be on Tuesday, and then the next show after that will be on the 1st of July, right? Yeah, be on the 1st of July will be the next show, and that of course will be Night Elf Day, which I kind of already have. Oh my god, I clicked on the weather. I kind of already have something figured out for Night Elf, so if I can get the replays, I think this Night Elf episode will be kind of interesting. All right. So that's that. That's what's planned in the future. Yeah, we might have a couple episodes off next month as well, but we'll certainly have one on the 1st. Right? I think that's everything. All right, it's Undead Week. It is Undead Week, and I kind of have a little bit of a different episode planned today. We're going to be watching 4 replays today from 2 different Undead players on 2 maps. Now, if I'm going to do some analysis of 2 Undead players, chat, who would these 2 Undead players be? Who would they be? Pretty easy question, but well, maybe not actually so easy. I could see there being 2 pairs of 2. Yeah, exactly. That would be one of the pairs, Happy and Eer0. Certainly Happy's in there, right? Certainly Happy. Eer0 Michael, Kaiser and Qbert, Bidu and Neo, 120 and Happy. Yeah. So although I think Happy and Eer0 could be a combo that I could do, it's nice to get outside of one region. So 120 and Happy are going to be the 2. Vortex, he's retired unfortunately now. Ted, Happy and Remo, very nice. Yeah, Happy and 120, but all very good suggestions. Krav and Happy, interesting. So we're going to be taking the best undead of all time, probably everywhere, which is most likely happy. And then the best undead of all time in Asia, arguably 120. I mean, maybe you could say Fav or Ted or Lucifer, but I think 120 is the best undead of all time from Asia. I think that's pretty solid, evidence-based claim right there, right? So that's who we're going to be focusing on today. So how we're going to do it is we're going to watch a replay of Happy, and then we're going to be watching a replay of 120, and we're going to be watching these replays on the same map, and we're going to compare and contrast their plays, see how they differ, and see how they're exactly the same. That leads me to the title of today's episode. The title is Happy in 120 versus Elf in Contrast. Right. We're going to be watching replays on 2 maps. Now, what might the 2 maps be, guys? If you had to pick 2 maps you wanted to learn some stuff on, what would the 2 maps be? Unfortunately, will they both be against the same player? That is a great suggestion. But unfortunately, just those sorts of replays do not exist. Happy doesn't play outside of Europe. 120 very rarely plays against people within Europe. AZ and Concealed Hill. Booty Bay. North one, Blue one. Northern Isles is what you're thinking of. Last Refuge in Amazonia. Good suggestions. So for Undead against Elf, there are, some very common maps. Of course, Concealed Hill is a very common map. Amazonia is relatively common. Northern Isles not too common recently. Last Refuge relatively common. But there's 2 maps in the pool that were recently introduced onto NetEase, and 2 maps in the pool that have recently been, of course, introduced, a little later back to Europe and North American or America's sort of games. And that's Autumn Leaves and Tidehunters. So we're going to be watching a game of Happy on Tidehunters and then a game of 120 on Tidehunters, and we're going to look at things like, what are their opening creep routes? What are their opening creep routes? How do they scout? Where do they scout? Where do they take fights on the map? What creep camps do they prioritize in the mid-game? If they expand, where do they expand? When do they expand? Stuff like that. We're also going to be doing the same on Autumn Leaves. We're going to be watching a game of Happy on Autumn Leaves, and then we're going to be watching a game of 120 on Autumn Leaves, and we're going to look, how do their playstyles differ? What do they do that's exactly the same? Right? And what do they do that, maybe they both do things that are kind of interesting and new and good for their own reasons. But the interesting thing about doing stuff like this is when we look at the 2 best undeads in the world, right? The 2 best undeads in the world, we look at them both in very similar sort of games. I tried to find from the elf's perspective in these replays, the elves playing as similarly as possible. And of course, that's a difficult thing to do because they're against different elf opponents. But I tried to find their opponents doing very similar things. So then we look, okay, Happy, 120, they're against the same strategy essentially. If they do things different, they must be doing them for a reason. But if they do things the same, that must mean that it's probably the best way to play it, right? Against this standard of a strategy. It's like a Venn diagram. We were talking about this on Orc Week, right? It's a Venn diagram. So they do different stuff on the outside circles, some different stuff, but then the stuff where the circles overlap, as I do a Venn diagram with my fingers, there's the juicy stuff. That's the good stuff right there. That's the stuff that we know we can take, that we know we can steal, because there's no debate between the 2 best undeads of all time that you should do those things. Yeah, these maps are played in WGL. And I don't think it's pointless, just because the maps aren't played at one Chinese tournament as well, if they weren't, but they are played at WGL, of course. I was against Night Elf your choice. Well, it's always up to what replays I'm able to find. I downloaded every single versus human replay, every single versus orc replay, and every single versus Night Elf replay. There weren't a lot of undead mirrors, at least for 120. And Night Elf just happened to have the best quality replays for the purpose today. There was a couple of other ideas that I had initially. Of course, the first thing that came to mind was playing Death Knight against Farseer Headhunters, but I couldn't find enough replays, especially from Happy's point of view, because he doesn't play any orcs. He just doesn't play any orc players ever. So, that's rough. And it's hard to do an Undead Day without doing some Happy analysis, right? And 120 had quite a few replays versus orc, but they're sort of all over the place. A lot of Crypt Lord games, for instance. So yeah, just a matter. I picked Night Elf today because Night Elf had the best replays. And that's that. So here's the order of things, the order of operations. So the first map we're going to go over is Tidehunters. Right? Second map is going to be Autumn Leaves. Yeah, but how do I get those replays though? Right? How do I get those replays? So we're gonna start with Happy. We're gonna let Happy lead in both of these. And then we're gonna watch 120. Because, you know, I don't think there's much debate that Happy's probably the better of these two players. Right? Happy's probably the better of these two players. And I noticed some things. Some 2v2 or 3v3? Maybe. Maybe in the future. Although it's tough. We've talked about that a little bit. So there was an interesting thing when I was watching these replays back to back. I would watch Happy and then I would watch 120. And then I looked at the date of the replays and I noticed that 120 seems to be doing, I think he studies Happy a lot and takes a lot of what Happy does. Because I'm watching games of Happy from further back in time and then more recent 120 games. And 120 is sort of adapting and changing to do very similar things to what Happy does. So I think if you were to ask 120 what sort of replays are you learning from, he'd probably say almost all Happy games. I imagine he studies a lot of Happy games because they end up doing very similar things a lot of the time. At least on some of the maps. Not all the maps, but some of them. Happy is inspirational for all of us undeads, yeah. Which undead wouldn't study Happy? Except we don't win, yeah. That's true, that's true. Alright, so that'll be the order of things. 4 replays today. First one will be on Tidehunters. And what I want you guys to keep in mind, we're gonna cover, of course, when we watch Happy first, we're gonna cover all the details of what Happy's doing. And we'll try to make sense of why he's doing it the best that we can. But then what's important is to tag the important things that Happy has done in that game that he was successful with, that he did really well, that we thought were cool things that we would take over to our own game. And then see if 120 does them in his game as well. And we'll try to mark and tag the similarities between the two and the differences between the two, if there are any, which there might not be any differences. Who knows? Maybe they'll play exactly the same. Maybe they'll play completely differently. And then we can make a judgment call of, oh, I prefer this style, or, oh, I prefer this style. Right? But let's try to see the differences and the similarities. And again, the Venn diagram is what we should be thinking of. And we'll try to take some notes after we get through the first 2 replays of these things. And we'll try and do that for the 3rd and 4th replay. Forget this, let's go to the beach. It's nice out, dude. I'm going out after this. Oh, yeah. I'm going out. I'm going outside for sure. I'm going out for sure after this. But let's get through these 4 replays first, and then I can go outside. For sure. I'm going to go enjoy the sunshine all day and all tomorrow, because tomorrow I don't have to do anything. Got a whole free day tomorrow. How brilliant is that? How beautiful is that? All right, are there any more questions before we jump into replay number 1? I'm so hyped for Warcraft 3 still as a scene. I'm going to have to dust off the mouse. Nice, dude. Welcome, 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 welcome. Are there any questions before we go into replay 1? And of course, I've done 2 episodes on this matchup. I did one from the Undead's perspective. I did how Happy deals with Keeper Mass Fairy Dragons, which of course The replays we're going to be watching today, they're going to be just standard undead against elf, so Keeper Demon Hunters, the most standard way elves are playing currently. So it's still going to be some similarities with the Keeper first style from the undead's perspective. And then the other episode I did in this matchup was from the Night Elf's perspective of Foggy defeating Happy, actually. So we're going to see a lot of similarities to those two episodes I've already done of Night Elf against Undead and Undead against Night Elf. But this time it'll be more standard and from the Undead's perspective. All right. Here we go. Into replay number 1. Here in the bottom right is Happy, and what I'm going to try to do for these is I'm going to watch a lot of it from just the solo perspective of Happy, so that we can see. It's very important in this matchup, as I talked about in the Masked Fairy Dragon episode. The scouting is extremely important in this matchup. Extremely, extremely important. And here's Foggy, of course, in the top left, because who else would Happy be playing if not Foggy? How many hours of studying you put in this? I put like 8 hours into each episode, something like that, for finding replays and stuff. All right, Ghoul Opener. This is going to be a consistency throughout the day. Ghouls seem to be unequivocally the best style to play against Night Elf currently. We can talk about why, but Ted Fiends is kind of out. There were reasons for going Ted Fiends in the past against Night Elf that some undeads went, including Happy even went for at times. Nowadays it's all ghouls, and especially on a map like Tidehunters, it's going to be all ghouls. Ghouls with an Scout Acolyte, and again, just emphasizing the importance of scouting in this matchup. Why is it so important to scout in this matchup, you might ask? Well, there's a lot of things you need to confirm. If we just pause for a second and we think about it, I'm the undead player here, as we are, because we are happy right now, guys. Okay, we are happy. What information do we need to know with this acolyte? Well, of course, we need to know what the hero is. We don't even know if it's an altar hero yet. It most likely is, and we can most likely assume it'll be a keeper, but it could also be a warden. It could also be a demon hunter. You know, we've seen Beastmaster in the past against undead. There's a lot of things. We are happy, yeah. There are a lot of things we need to scout for, but the first thing is the hero. The second thing, of course, yeah, you're absolutely correct, J-Del, is the Ancient War positioning. We'd expect it to be right here, but we've seen it, for instance, be here in the past. Maybe you can build it close to the expansion, which is not too uncommon. Maybe right here. I'm not exactly sure on this map if you can build it close to the expansion, but that's very common for Night Elves to do, especially on maps like Autumn Leaves, which we're going to get to in the future. So yeah, hero, Ancient War positioning, and then later on we need to scout where the Tree of Life positioning is. So we might see the Tree of Life built right here as the most common position, which would indicate he's going to go for an expansion here. Or we may see a Tree of Life right here, which would indicate the expansion planted here. These are the two main positions that we're going to see Happy continuously scout for after he sees the hero, the Ancient War positioning. There's even more we can scout for too, but we'll talk about that a little later on. So that's what this Acolyte is initially trying to see. It's the hero, the Ancient War positioning, and if he can stick around to see if there's a very early Tree of Life, that's ideal. They're just ghouls, Death Knight, 2 Ziggurats because we want more ghouls. You can tech on 1 Ziggurat at times with ghouls, but 2 Ziggurats most standard. We're going to see Happy go up to about, and this is true with most undeads, 8 to 10 ghouls. It is either going to be 8, 9, or 10 ghouls, which is going to put you at 26, 28, or 30 supply, assuming you lose this Acolyte. Death Knight comes out. The rod, and the Acolyte sees the Ancient War positioning. Hasn't yet seen the hero. This is a little interesting play. Very typically will there be a wisp on this tree, or if you're spawned on the other side, there'll be a wisp on this tree. So that's just what Happy was looking for. Although you wouldn't be able to look for it here because you wouldn't be able to coil it. On this spawn, you actually can find where the wisp is and coil it. Although it could also be there, but that's just what Happy's looking for right there. Yeah, if Keeper you would like to scout what ability he goes first, something Remo actually pointed out to me is you can sometimes force the Night Elf to go Entangle first to kill your Acolyte, in which case you're able to actually pressure a lot easier if they go Entangle first, because you can stop their creeping much easier if they don't have Treants. The Acolyte sees the Keeper. And Happy's actually gonna run across the map and steal this item. One interesting thing he's doing is he's also getting Backpack. Ooh, Backpack, guys. Now this is cool. This is something... I don't want to say we don't see it on other maps. Of course, also in Nerubian, just to be safe against a potential Keeper run by, because he wants to secure his tech. I don't want to say we never see it on other maps, Backpack early. But it's very good on this map, certainly. Why is it good on this map? Well, of course, the expansion is so easy to creep for the Night Elf that the reason Happy is pressuring, I would imagine, is because he wants to delay this expansion for as long as possible if Foggy were to creep this as like his first or second camp. Like if he creeps this and then runs straight over and wants to creep the expansion, Happy will be here in position to creep Jack and to slow it down at least. He won't be able to stop it entirely, but he'll be able to slow it down at least. Another reason, and so you're able to have your Death Knight across the map to pressure that. And the reason why Backpack is good paired with that is now the ghouls can creep this camp, most typically. Pick up the item, not let the Keeper steal it. And they can also creep this camp. You can creep both of these camps pretty much with 5 ghouls, which is very unique to this map. There's not a lot of maps where you can just creep 2 full camps with 5 ghouls. And you can essentially get level 3 while you're harassing with your Death Knight at the same time, which is a very unique thing about Tidehunters. You can even creep this camp with solo ghouls. You can creep this camp with solo ghouls. There are some maps that have multiple camps you can creep with ghouls, but not many maps where you can literally creep to level 3 with just ghouls. And that's why we see the Backpack very early to allow you to get the item and lots of cool things. Ente, how's it going, brother? But for now, he's just going to snag away the item. Something we're going to see Happy do consistently is he's always trying to stack up that Lich. He's trying to get racks on racks on racks on top of that Lich at tier 2. Acolyte again on top of the Keeper. Look at this. Ooh! 20 experience. Every bit counts. Acolyte dies, but the Acolyte has succeeded in a lot of scouting. One thing that Happy has not scouted. Side. Oh no, all the undeads are here. Oh, Jesus. What is one thing that Happy has to do right now? Now, he's got enough information to allow his ghouls to move out. Notice he saw where the Keeper was. He saw the Keeper run here, and then here, and then here. So he knows the Keeper is at least in, like, this. Like, he's at the furthest, he's right here. So this means the ghouls are pretty safe to start creeping. If he didn't know where the Keeper was, these ghouls would be in for risky business. Right? So he's always trying to confirm the positioning of the Keeper before he commits his ghouls in. Because if he doesn't know where the Keeper is and he just goes, oh, I guess I'll creep, he might lose 2 or 3 ghouls. At least 2 here, if the Keeper comes across the map, which we might even see a little later in a different replay. This is a very common occurrence. So this scouting is very important. Yes, Happy was able to stop the creeping entirely. He's able to steal some experience, get some treants. But most importantly, he was able to figure out where the Keeper was to allow his ghouls to split creep at the same time. Pretty neat, right? What is one more thing that he's got to scout for? What has he got to scout for, guys? There's 2 top undead players in the chat. What does he have to scout for? And where exactly should that skeleton that's going to be scouting for Happy go to? Yay! Side got it. Yeah, of course, of course. He's got to send one of these skeletons. One of them. It doesn't matter. Send either or. Send either or. And there's 2 positions he has to scout. So he's got to send one skeleton right here to scout for a Tree of Life. And he should try to, although he doesn't have to, send another skeleton right here and scout for it. To see the timing of the expansion, to see if there's an expansion at all. And to see if he has an opportunity to maybe even go for a cancel on it. Why not? And there might be more positions. All right, guys, there might be plenty of positions for the Tree Life to be built. Like, who knows? Maybe the Tree Life could be built right here. I don't actually know. I don't know. But the most typical positions is this spot and this spot. And I imagine, or this spot rather, I imagine Happy knows about 12 positions that he has to be scouting. But those are the 2 main positions. So we'll probably see skeletons go towards there. And then Happy will have all the information. And what do you know? When Skeleton goes there. Again, confirms the position of the Keeper, which is very important for the ghouls to be safe right now. As they solo creep with Backpack to pick up the item. And again, the Death Knight, this whole time, he's chasing the Keeper. This is an interesting little play. So Happy very often likes to get a Staff of Teleportation. We've talked about this in our past episodes against Keeper Fairy Dragons. He loves Staff of Teleportation, which we'll get into why in the future. But Foggy goes for the Entangle to steal the Staff of Teleportation, which is very nice. The Skeleton scouted this, didn't see a Tree of Life quite yet. And the other Skeleton is going to that bottom position. Or did he? No, he didn't. Okay, good. I'm not wrong. And the Keeper entangles. He's going to steal the staff. But this whole time, the Death Knight is still ensuring the safety for his ghouls this whole time. He's not going to kill the Keeper. He might stop the Keeper from creeping level 3 quite easily. But again, he's confirming the position of the Keeper so the ghouls can safely creep.
Our forces are under attack.
Staff is stolen. Dust is purchased, though. Excuse me. And again, look at this. He chases the Keeper. Oh, how cool is this? He chases the Keeper the whole way. He chases the Keeper the whole way up here, right? He sees the Keeper run up. So he knows the Keeper, at best, yeah, the Keeper has a Staff of Teleportation. Maybe he staffs to like a Wisp somewhere. Like, was there a Wisp here, a Wisp here? Let's see. Okay, there's a Wisp right here. That's a worst case scenario, right? Maybe the Keeper staffs here and creepjacks the ghouls. But at least Happy knows the Keeper's running up and only has one entangle. Close to 2, but he would like to, 1, go creep level 3. Maybe, finish up the expansion. And 2, he'd like to go back and get more mana before he does anything. So the ghouls, again, because of knowing the state of the Keeper and the positioning of the Keeper, does Happy through the DK movement. He's again able to creep this with solo ghouls. And look, he's got a Ring of Protection, guys. Incredible. Ring of Protection. And now the DK is going to go back down. And ideally the DK would have, and this is kind of interesting, just creeps with 2 skeletons. Why not? A little bit more experience. Because Happy's always trying to prioritize getting level 3 Death Knight in time for his Lich to be out. You might be asking yourself, how many ghouls has Happy built? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 ghouls. Is my math right? Is he 26 supply? Yes, he is. And again, if he had 9 ghouls, it'd be 28 supply. If he had 10 ghouls, it would be 30 supply. And generally on 1 base undead, that's the maximum ghouls you're going to build. And what do you know? 30 supply happens to be 2 Ziggurats. Assuming you lose the Acolyte, right? You might keep the Acolyte alive at times, in which case 9 is the max you can get. Whatever.
Our forces are under attack.
Pog champ. Backpack passed over the double rings. Now, these aren't the greatest items, but note there is a marketplace on this map. This Wisp would be level 3, but Foggy is too damn good. Again, Skeleton, scouting, right here for the Tree of Life positioning, timing, all that stuff, right? Ghouls go back home. Why do the ghouls go back home? Well, because we don't know where the Keeper is. We know the Keeper was around here generally going back to get Moon Juice, but the Keeper could have gone to his Moonwells and ran across the map, and now he could be on top of our ghouls, so we don't want to risk it anymore with our ghouls. We got everything we wanted, and that was pretty much level 3 Death Knight, right? 1 Treant, 1 Wisp, we're going to get level 3 Death Knight. There's nothing Foggy can do really to stop that. The ghouls go back home. The ghouls chill. The ghouls play it safe. Don't lose any ghouls. Don't lose any ghouls, right? So that's why the ghouls are going back. And they're a little bit risky here. Like, the Keeper could catch them out, but so far Happy's been very good with his scouting, and he's managed to keep all of his ghouls safe, which is very important. You don't want to lose ghouls for no reason.
Our forces are under attack.
He sold both rings, and he racks on racks on racks, remember. Gloves of Haste, Circlet for the Lich in the future. What's up, Victor? How's it going? Gets a Treant, gets level 3. That's his first goal of the game. Boom. Well, not the first goal of the game, but the major goal from his side of things is to get level 3 Death Knight. And there's a whole bunch of scouting and stuff he has to do as well. Again, another skeleton. He didn't get the scout off the first time, so he's got to do it again. Oh, he finds the Keeper. More skeletons. Not for any sort of harass or anything. They're just purely to scout, right? And now we see the Tree of Life. It's not really cancelable, but at least we know the timing of the Tree of Life. Again, the ghouls are all safe in the main base. The tech is almost finished. And then we'll look at the order of things that Happy likes to do, at least on this map in this position. Stealing this camp away, because why not? Because why not? This is a cool scout. What did we say at the beginning of the game? There's a few things we need to scout for. We need to scout for the hero. We need to scout for the Tree of Life when it comes up. And we need to scout for the Ancient War positioning. Well, that doesn't just mean the first place the Ancient War is, because good Night Elves always move their Ancient War. They'll get 5 archers maximum, and they move their Ancient War. Maybe they even get less and then move their Ancient War, right? So again, he's scouting. He knows where the Tree of Life is, so he doesn't have to scout here for the Tree of Life. But what he can scout for, and this is very interesting, is the Ancient War reposition. After the first camp, right here, which we know where it is, the Ancient War could move here, the Ancient War could move here, the Ancient War could maybe go towards the expansion, but this Skeleton Scout is going to see if the Ancient War is positioned here. So look how proactively Happy is scouting. This is sick. He uses his rod for creeping to the maximum amount of value, and then he gets the perfect amount of information with it as well. Very cool. And he sees the Ancient War positioning. What does this tell Happy? Well, when that Demon Hunter comes out of the altar, as I'm expecting, or the Panda comes out of the tavern, or whatever hero, the Naga comes out of the tavern, although if it was a Naga, maybe something else would happen. He knows where that second hero is going to go straight out of the tavern. He knows that a hero's going to come out of the tavern or out of the altar if it's a Demon Hunter and go whoop, or go whoop. So much information being gained. So much information.
Our forces are under attack.
And that seems like a weird scout, right? You know he's got a Tree of Life, right? You saw his keeper not too long ago. You know a lot of things, but why not scout it? Staff of Teleportation, I said we talk about this a little bit when he gets it, because of course it got stolen from him earlier, so let's talk about it. What Happy likes to do is, which is a little bit different from some undeads, but he sort of always goes for this play against Night Elf. Ark, how's it going, brother? Good to see you, man. 21 months. Thank you very much. What Happy likes to do very much is, of course, he prioritizes the level 3 Death Knight. He's got the level 3 DK. That means level 2 Coil. His Lich is about to come out. About 50% done. He has a Staff of Teleportation. He, of course, can't leave the base with many of his units, with any of the Fiends he builds, with the statue that he builds. And, of course, the order here, as I said, I'd mentioned, was Tier 3 Tech, Lich, then Slaughterhouse. And now he'll get a Fiend. He can't leave his base with any of these ghouls, right? What can he leave his base with? Well, his Lich and his Death Knight. Especially if he has a Staff of Teleportation, because he has Coil level 2 to save the Lich. If the DK gets in trouble from an entangle, he can staff away. So this staff allows him to be aggressive with just 2 heroes to gain value while he's waiting to have destroyers. How can he gain value? Well, because he knows what the Ancient War positioning is. He knows that when the Demon Hunter comes out of the altar, the Demon Hunter is going to go down here to creep, because he saw where the Ancient War is. I mean, unless Foggy's going to go aggressive on level 1 Demon Hunter with that hero. He's probably not, though. So he knows where to go now with the Staff of Teleportation, also with the Lich, to sort of pressure Foggy. Kind of neat. Which is why he buys the Staff of Teleportation. To keep his heroes safe, to pressure the creeping of the Demon Hunter, while he's trying to wait for his Tier 3 tech. And now this is a little unfortunate. Although he would like to, when his Lich comes out, I'm sure, keep harassing. He gets entangled, caught out of position, loses a bunch of health, has no mana left over. What he did see, though, so he sells the Staff of Teleportation and doesn't go for any more pressure on the creeping. What he did see, though, is he saw, as he was staffing out, he saw the Keeper and the Demon running up. So they're going to go finish this creep camp. Yeah, the Keeper could come back down and start harassing him, but he's a little whiles away. So Happy knows, okay, now I can creep, and he's going to creep big. Because he at least knows where the army is going. Yes, maybe the Keeper's going to come cross-map and harass him on this creeping. No, he did find the Tree of Life. He did scout it right here. He scouted it with a skeleton when it was about 50% done, 60% done. He did gain that information. Happy has full info right now. He doesn't know if there's lores or wins coming up, but nowadays nobody plays wins anymore. So he has pretty much every piece of information he needs currently. But he knows at least the army's going to go back and creep this. Is the army back and creeping this? Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, he is continuing to creep this. What he doesn't know is where the Keeper is. That's one piece of information he doesn't have. And say the Keeper comes and creepjacks him right now. Yeah, he might lose a couple of ghouls, but I mean, he's got level 2 coil, he's got a lich, he's got a lot of units. Yeah, the entangle might kill a ghoul or two, but I think he'll be alright. The only risk in creeping this is really if the entire army were to come across with like a couple of dryads or something and start pressuring him. But if it's just a Keeper, I wouldn't say it would be the end of the world for Happy. So he's willing to take this risk. And all the while, he's just waiting for tier 3 to be done. Now, this Fiend coming out might be a little risky. Happy's pretty confident the Keeper's not going to be here, but he's got no coil and a Fiend has left the base. Like, if Keeper comes here, there's a world in which he could lose a Fiend, whereas losing a ghoul or two might not be the end of the world, but losing his first Fiend would be pretty rough for him. But he's pretty confident, I guess. He's pretty confident. And tier 3 is about to be done. And of course, he's got level 2 coil, so now that he does have a coil, he can be pretty confident that a Keeper alone isn't going to get much damage done. And he's going to have destroyers pretty soon. Notice the Lich items, absolutely fantastic. Not the best, of course, that you can have. We're going to see a much more powerful Lich in the future. In a different replay. But, you know, very good, very tanky. Alright. Tier 3 done. Orb out. Somebody asked earlier, why does Undead play one base? It's because they have a very strong power spike. It is 8 minutes and 20 seconds in the game right now. This is typically when Undead hits their power spike, around 8.5 minutes, something like that. So Happy's soon going to have Destroyers. I imagine he's going to get Frenzy. Again, he's got 8 ghouls. He hasn't lost any ghouls yet. He's going to get Frenzy, Destroyers. He's got Orb. He's going to have level 3 Lich soon. So Happy is hitting a power spike. And as we know, Foggy invested very much into the early expansion. So maybe his tier 2 tech isn't late. But what we can gosh darn guarantee is that his tier 3 tech is late. So, what can we do? What can we do? Yes, maybe his tier 2 tech is online. We already confirmed that ourselves. Happy doesn't know, but there's might be some Dryads out. We know there's a Demon Hunter, a Keeper level 3 out. Probably a Demon Hunter level 3. Yeah, only the Fiends would really be exposed at this point. So yeah, there's a couple of options. The old option that Happy was doing very often in the past, and I know this because I watched a lot of Happy vs. Foggy replays to do the episode on Foggy in the past, right? Happy was going all in at this time, so he hits a very strong power spike. He knows that the Night Elf just got his expansion up. Let's check. Let's check how much Foggy's expansion has mined. These are 11,500? Yeah, so it literally just got up. Couldn't remember if it was 12,500 or 11,500, but yeah, 180 gold. Right? So not even a minute has his expansion been up. So Happy could, yes, he could hit a timing with like a Tinker Third with the Orb with the Destroyer. Push the expansion. That's common here. That would be a beautiful timing. But if you can push an expansion and kill him, what you can also do with the map control that you have newly gained on tier 3 with Destroyers, again, with Orb, with the fact his expansion has not paid off yet, and we know that if we have a good internal timer in the back of our head, which Happy undoubtedly has, we can also use that map control to expand, and that's what Happy's going to do. To counter expand. Because why go all in if Undead on 2 base is absolutely viable? It's not as though Undead is worse than other races on 2 bases. In fact, they're probably stronger than most races on 2 bases. And why not use a power spike to get up a counter expansion? Now he's scouting. Happy should be scouting for something. How does he decide between expanding or not in this timing? Well, most times nowadays, I've been seeing undeads just counter-expand at this timing. The previous response in the past was always to push, or not always, but lots of the times to push the expansion and try to break the expo, especially against Keeper Mass Fairy Dragons, which had its own reasons for doing that. But nowadays, it's almost always a counter-expand that I've been able to see against this particular build order from the Night Elf, of course. Now, Happy's actually going to make what I would argue to be a mistake in this position. This is speculation, but I think it's a mistake. It's relatively complicated, but one thing Happy has to be scouting for is the main base right now, and I don't believe, if memory serves, that he does scout the main base. Let's unpause and take a look if Happy does scout the main base at any point. Now he's going to see Keeper level 3, Coil Nova, why not? So he's got a skeleton going towards the expansion, but it's going to expire. Now note, Happy's expanding right now without anything in the way of towers, right? Because he hit a power spike. He feels very safe with the power spike that he has hit to be able to secure the expansion. But let's see, does he scout anything? Does he scout anything? He's got a Fiend. He scouts the Keeper coming to cancel his expansion, in which he responds immediately with a Destroyer, which is a nicely played exchange. But one thing he has to scout for... Oh, he is sending a skeleton, but again, the skeleton's going to expire. Let's see. Does it reach the main base? Does it reach the main base? So Happy's trying. He's trying. He's trying. Does he see? Actually, this would be sick if he does. Oh. Oh, he just actually sees it. He just now sees it. So that's actually pretty crazy. I didn't realize when I watched it in the past how clutch that scout was. But what's important for Happy at this stage is to see that Foggy is still tier 2. That's actually... I did not realize that was how precise the scout was when I previously watched this. But it's still a tad bit late. The reason why it's a tad bit late is there's 2 responses generally from the Night Elf when the Undead expands, as we've seen on this map in particular, especially from Foggy. Well, there's one response to tech, of course, and we often see Night Elves tech into bears, double orb on both their Keeper and their Demon Hunter, and 2 wins for bear hippos. Is generally they say, let's go into the late game, let's creep the map, go into the late game. The Night Elf will try to get another expansion up, so they'll try to be on 3 bases. We see this all the time on Concealed Hill and stuff. Yeah, Foggy did get an AP at the expansion, but the AP was not scouted by Happy, worth noting. It was never scouted by Happy. So that's the one response, to say, okay, let's go into the late game, and the Night Elf is then going to try to creep the map and get another expansion up eventually. Bear Hippogriffs with double orb and 3/3 upgrades, right? That's their late game position. All the time is this seen on Concealed Hill. The second option that Foggy does relatively often is stays on tier 2, which is why scouting the tech is very important. Stay on tier 2, and he's going to try to not necessarily all in, but break straight up to 60, 70 supply mass dryads and try to break the expansion. Right? And another reason why Foggy may stay on tier 2 is because he thinks Happy is all-inning his expansion, so he needs to defend his expansion, so he can't tech, so he delays his tier 3 tech until he's in a position to defend an expansion against a Happy all-in. So the Night Elf is always trying to play teeter-totter with, when do I go tier 3? When do I keep building dryads? Do I have to push your expansion? Do I have to hold my own expansion? So seeing the tech timing of the Night Elf in this position is very important to know, is the Night Elf breaking to 60, 70 supply mass dryads and trying to break my expansion? And in this case, Happy scouted, and he did scout actually very, very well. But it's a little bit too late for him to get what I would say would be the best response to this sort of aggression from Night Elf, which would be to get 2 towers at the expansion before building the gold mine at all, or to at least start to build them at the same time. So Sacrificial Skull, 2 towers, and maybe skip the Necropolis or something. to be more defensive at the expansion. Because, of course, if the Night Elf is massing Dryads to 60, 70 supply, if you have a Spirit Tower, which we're going to see at the expansion, just a Spirit Tower, and especially a Spirit Tower and a Nerubian, mass Dryads can really not break the expansion. It's very, very difficult. So that would be a better response from Happy had he gotten this information maybe earlier that Foggy was staying on tier 2, as we now have, because Foggy would be teching tier 3 if he was going for an early tier 3 tech in most cases. And we, of course, have a cheat sheet that we can see Foggy's already broken upkeep, and we, of course, saw that he was on tier 2. So a slight, maybe, inaccuracy, you could say. Maybe you could argue it's not a mistake at all, and Happy's just, Happy doesn't care. But I'd say a slight inaccuracy in not getting a tower earlier and also not scouting a little bit earlier, perhaps. Right? Debatable, but still there and worth noting. Sees the items, see a potion, double heal scroll, invuln, that's something Foggy loves to get, and as we can see, Foggy's on 60 supply. Back at home, Happy's just chilling. He's getting Burrow. He's getting first attack upgrade. Now he breaks upkeep because he realized what's going on, and he tries to get a tower now that he has the Blight here from the Necropolis. But this is a very difficult fight to win without a defensive tower at the expansion. Very difficult. There's a lot of Dryads here. We've seen Happy lose in these positions before on this very map, albeit it was at this expansion. But there's a game I covered in another episode of this show where Happy lost in this exact position. He tried to counter-expand, although he had Gargs. He did have Gargs in that game. He tried to counter-expand, and Foggy broke up to 65 supply Dryads on tier 2 and pushed and killed him at the expansion. He's lost these sort of games before. And that's a lot of Dryads. And there's no towers. So Happy's going to take some losses here. He's going to take some losses. But he is still happy at the end of the day. I think Foggy could have maybe gone for this Ziggurat cancel. Might have been a decent play. It seems like a wacky play, but might have been a decent idea. The Lich having great items is very helpful against Mass Dryads. And the Spirit Tower is getting up. Once the Spirit Tower gets up, you're actually... It's not too difficult to defend only Dryads, but if you have no units, it is. Wonder why Happy gets 2 Destroyers here. I suppose so that you can get rid of Treants without having to worry about getting Surprise Entangled. So you always have the double Devour, just in case you need to Devour and Entangle after it's on cooldown. Because if not, you can essentially never get rid of Treants if Entangle is off cooldown. Would be my reasoning, if I had one. Again, now he's getting a shop and 2 towers. But he did lose 2 Fiends and 8 Ghouls. Yeah, he lost 2 Fiends and 8 Ghouls. And there's still, as we can see again, 68 supply Dryads. The cool thing about this, though, from the Undead's perspective, is although maybe Happy could have taken a safer approach, and those of us that aren't happy watching this, I would recommend taking the safer approach. What's the safer approach? To just get earlier towers at the expansion and scout the tech more proactively. Right? That would be the safer approach. But what's cool about this position is if we defend this sort of aggression from the Night Elf, as I would imagine Foggy, now that there's a tower up at the expansion, he's probably going tier 3. Let's check. He is now going tier 3. Right around the time, maybe not exactly, but when he realized he wasn't going to be able to actually just win the game off this push, he goes tier 3, and then he's going to go into bears and wins, typically. But because Happy knows in this position, Foggy's at least gone up to 65 supply, this is kind of stopping Foggy from getting an ideal army. Because he's stuck on so many Dryads. So he can only get a few bears And he can't get any hippogriffs, really, without going up to high upkeep. So it's kind of a cool position for Happy to be in, where he's held this pressure, but Foggy's still stuck on a whole lot of Dryads. So his tier 3 army, Foggy's, is actually going to be relatively weak compared to if he had teched earlier, whereas he'd be more bear hippogriff heavy. So it's kind of a cool position for Happy, but scary because he's trying to defend the expansion with 2 fiends right now. He's got 1 in his base, 2 in his base. And because he knows Foggy's going to be Dryad heavy, he's getting some meat wagons. He already got Disease Cloud as we see it completed. He's going into meat wagons and rallying fiends to his base, and he's just chilling. Because, yeah, we're both on 2 bases, but I'm going to have the stronger army when we both hit 80 supply at this point. Even if we're on even economy.
Summoning is complete.
Yeah, no, I'd say Foggy not committing. Someone in the chat says, you know, people have said that Foggy should have just pushed here, right? Should have just pushed. I wouldn't blame Foggy for not pushing the Spirit Tower, and especially now that the Nerubian is up and the shop, it's very difficult to break this Spirit Tower without a Sapper, with 5 Acolytes repairing it, and of course this Lich in the back attacking your Dryads. It would be very difficult for Foggy to break this expansion, even though you might look at the supply and be like, oh my god, why isn't he just killing him right now? Yes, if this was Foggy against a much lower level undead player, then he probably could have done that. But against Happy, you should not underestimate a Spirit Tower and this Lich in the back and Fiends and a shop and a Nerubian. Foggy would have thrown had he pushed into this, absolutely. The right play for Foggy here, in my opinion, was to tech tier 3 and play the later stage of the game, albeit he'll be on a weaker... He'll be weaker in the later stages of the game because Happy was able to defend this, and Happy realizes this, and he's going into meat wagons. Which is so sick from Happy. So sick. We're gonna see a pretty cool play from Happy now too. It's not like genius or anything, but it's like cool. Yeah, just TP back to your main base because you got 2 meat wagons and 4 fiends here. Collect your army. He's gonna buy another town portal, and he buys a mana pot. Cool. And now look at our army. This is from Happy 65 supply. So even if it's 80 supply Dryads, which we can be pretty certain it's not, because Foggy again should go tier 3 to get bears out. But even if this is 80 supply Dryads, this army is still going to beat 80 supply Dryads with Happy's micro. Pretty cool. He could have built 6 APs in his face and all end. Possibly. I'm not sure if he had the gold to get 6 APs, because of course he immediately broke upkeep with Dryads, got double heal scroll potion and an invuln. I don't think he had the economy to do that, because all of his gold was literally pumped into immediately getting up to 65 supply, I believe. Whereas now he's got some bank, but the reason Foggy has a bank right now is because he's going into bears, he's getting second shop for double orb, so there's a reason why he's now has a little bit of a bank, but I don't believe he did at the time he pushed to get 6 APs. But now Happy has a very strong army and the economy is even. And Happy doesn't have to too actively scout, past the point of Happy seeing the tech timing, in my opinion. Happy doesn't have to scout too much more, other than maybe he should scout his own expansion for a Tree of Life, and he should scout this expansion for a Tree of Life, because generally when the map is fully crept out, that's when Night Elves will go for another expansion, when they don't have to contest any other creep camps, so they can defensively play and try to get another base up. So maybe this is one more thing Happy could scout for, but he doesn't have to necessarily scout the main base or the expansion. He knows what's coming. He knows Foggy's going to get double orb and transition into bears, and he knows he should get web in case there's hippogriffs in the future, which I imagine if he doesn't already have, he will get soon. There's not a lot Happy has to scout. The main thing he has to check for now is Foggy going for another base, I would say, is the main thing. Happy, of course, scouted this, and that's actually kind of cool. He sends an Acolyte here. And not only does the scout if there's a Tree of Life here, but he's also going to take a fight while expanding again. And of course, he knows the fight he's going to be taking now, he's going to win, because even if Foggy is even supply with him, it's even supply, but already a huge investment into Dryads, which are countered. You need Bears in this position, you need Hippogriffs in this position. Maybe the Hippogriffs could be debated with this number of Dryads, but you certainly need Bears. So Happy knows, again, just like with the Tier 3 tech, where he had map control before to be able to get this expansion up. Now, again, he has the tech advantage in that he has the proper counter. So he's going to be able to get another base up, which is sick. Which is super sick. Gonna buy more items. He gets claws. Happy loves using this marketplace. Loves using it. He puts a lot of value into the items on his Lich, which I think is common for undead players. And again, he's pushing now. Expanding. And the positioning he takes here is super sick. Now, I don't know if this is high ground, this hill here. I don't know if you're fighting uphill, although we can check if we see misses, but like obviously this to this would be high ground, but I'm not sure is this to this high ground. Sure looks like it, right? It sure looks like high ground. So, you know, if this is low ground to high ground, it may be not the best positioning with Fiends, but still with the meat wagons at your back and the choke point, it's still pretty gosh darn strong, right? But let's check. We'll keep an eye out for misses if this is low ground to high ground. Now there's bears out, but only 2 of them. Oh, and look at the meat wagons. Which is why this is such a sick decision, because he realized how much Foggy had committed into Dryads, going for that expansion break. So he just gets 2 meat wagons, which isn't something he'll always do, Happy. And note, this fight is with a purpose as well. This fight isn't necessarily just to win the game. This fight is Happy securing another base. And yeah, he's trading good here. He's lost some units. You know, it wasn't for free. He's trading at least 1 for 1, if not better. But even if he only trades 1 for 1, he's securing another base, and he's already scouted that Foggy wasn't expanding again. And even if he doesn't break this expansion, he's still going to be up economically behind this, right? Because his expansion's getting up.
Summoning is complete.
And he happens to win this fight also while getting the expansion up, which is great. But even if he hadn't won this fight, I think it would still be fine for Happy. Which is why all these plays he's making are just so good. Because he doesn't have to. People think he just pushes and wins with his micro immediately. It's like, no, he's got a follow-up if he doesn't win the fight. It just happens that he actually does win the fight. Note he's replacing these meat wagons with abominations because he's already traded out the Dryads for the meat wagons. So now he's going to go into abominations, which are much more sturdy, strong, late game unit. The expansion gets broken. This expansion is up. The Acolyte's actually killed an archer here, if you're wondering what that corpse is. An archer that's scouted. There's another archer down here scouting.
Our forces are under attack.
And now this is just simply GG. One thing Happy could maybe scout now is there a tree of life here? But even if there is, Happy's in a fantastic position to win this game.
Our forces are under attack.
One small thing worth noting as well, Happy's been on 2 heroes the whole game. There's a position in which maybe he'd get a 3rd hero once he hits 5-5, but Happy really wants to get, and most undeads really want to get 5-5 nowadays. Not really going for tri-hero too often. They want the level 3 Coil Nova. We're gonna see that right here. Woo! Look at that. That's why you want that.
Summoning is complete.
And GG is called. How sick is that game from Happy? There were, like I said, there were a couple slight inaccuracies that I would argue. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't. Who knows? Maybe they weren't. But still, pretty sick game. Pretty sick game from Happy. But now we're going to jump right into the 1-2-0 game, and we're going to, again, look for similarities. Maybe look for things, if there is any, that 1-2-0 does better. Maybe look for things that 1-2-0 does worse. And look for things they do that are the same. We'll look for commonalities. That'll be replay 2. Any comments, questions, concerns before we jump into replay 2? Thank you. Hey, Art of Warcraft, how's it going? And, you know, the reason I spend so much time on the first replay is because these are going to be, we're going to watch 4 replays. They're all going to be very similar to this one game, right? So that's why I spend a lot of time on the details of the first replay. But then as we go into replay 2, 3, and 4, you know, I'm going to assume that we already know why they're scouting specific things, what they're scouting for, you know, what the timings are when we're strong, when we're weak, things like that, right? Thanks, Ben K Music. Thanks, Evo Core. Yeah, and of course, Evo, I did an entire episode on this, episode 15, I believe, from the Night Elf's perspective, this exact build order, if you want to go check that out. Specifically, Foggy against Happy games. I did it from the Night Elf's perspective. How do you react if you scout the Night Elf is going for tier 3? Well, you can be more greedy, I would assume. You can be more greedy with your expansion, in that you don't need towers as earlier. And you would try to contest the rest of the camps on the map. So, for instance, at the end of that game, there was still a red camp in the top corner. So as the undead, you'd secure your expansion, of course, make sure it's safe, right? Maybe get towers a little later. Then you try to contest for the rest of the camps on the map, that red camp in particular. And you'd go more destroyer heavy, right? You wouldn't go for those 2 meat wagons. You would get an abomination, maybe 2, instead of those meat wagons, still with Disease Cloud, and you'd go for more destroyer heavy, earlier web because you'd be expecting hippogriffs, and you would try to play for the super late game. Generally, is what will happen, and we might see that in some more replays. We'll make sure to point it out if we do see that, which we might actually see in this replay too. Let's see if we see it in replay too. I'm not sure. All right. I want to see beyond the mustache. All right. I think that's good. Okay, replay 2. Which will be 1-2-0 against Moon. And now I will say, before we start the replay, Happy is probably a better player than 1-2-0 overall. And Moon is probably a better player than Foggy. So there's going to be some positions where maybe Happy would have done better than 1-2-0, and maybe Moon is going to do better than Foggy would have. But the game is still going to be close to similar. Right? It's just worth noting before we go into this. Here we go. Here's replay 2. Tidehunters again. Ghouls again. Here's 1-2-0. This is a NetEase replay, so it's zoomed in more than last time. Tidehunters again. I think I already said that. And we're going to see very similar openings to from 1-2-0. And here's Moon in the bottom right. And again, we'll watch most of this from 1-2-0's point of view. We'll pay very close attention to what 1-2-0 scouts. I would guess he would attempt to scout the same exact things. If he scouts anything we're not sure of, we'll try to put a reasoning towards that. But I imagine he's going to be scouting for the hero, the expansion timing, the ancient war positioning, the tech timing later on. He's going to be scouting for the keeper's positioning to give space for his ghouls if he wants to creep with them. But Moon happens to be a very tricky player. Moon, more than most Night Elves, is very tricky, not in strategy. It's not like he's hiding lores all the time and stuff like that. Hiding wins, hiding, APs, although he does do that. He's tricky with his expansion placement, timing, what he creeps, how he counters your creeping. He's tricky with when he creepjacks you. He's very tricky with just his map movement in general in the early and mid game. I'm not sure who came up with this strategy, EvoCore. I did see it first from Foggy, absolutely, but I'm not sure if he got it from anyone. But yeah, I would say if I had to guess, if I had to put my life on who came up with the strat, I think Foggy was the first to do it, or who was the first of the top players to do it. I think it was Foggy, but really don't know for sure. We saw the Ancient War positioning. The Acolyte staying safe. We see the Keeper, and we see where the Keeper's going. The Death Knight going across the map. Do we have Backpack? We do. So far, exactly the same. And again, the Death Knight going across to the expansion. As we saw, Foggy wasn't creeping this when Happy came across. So Happy was able to steal the item. In this case, Moon is actually going to creep it. But still, this is the whole point of this sort of creepjack that Happy did, in my opinion. This is what I'm guessing is for. If Moon was able to successfully creep this right away, he would have just planted the Tree of Life right here and then played safe. Maybe crept this. Right, maybe crept this and stayed close to the Tree of Life so that it wasn't able to be cancelled. But because 120 and Happy came straight across the map to harass, they're delaying the potential for a Tree of Life to be right here. And it's going to have to be produced right here, or, you know, right here. It's going to have to be produced in other locations, other than the most efficient. So you pretty much, you either stop them from getting the early Tree of Life, or you're able to steal the item like Happy was. It's a win-win. And of course, you're able to split creep at the same time with your ghouls with the backpack. Very neat. I think this is a great opener on Tidehunters, which is why both Happy and 120 did it. I think it's excellent. A Pioneer getting your hero stuck going to the altar, but no pros copy this. Well, some have. Some have. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Some definitely have. So the creeping was successfully stopped. These skeletons... They could scout for the expansion, but it would be a little bit early unless it was an immediate expansion, which of course is a possibility. I do think they could still have done that, but they're not. And again, we know where the Keeper is. Notice, the ghouls move out. We know where the Keeper is, and the ghouls go to creep. Very important. Is there a reason why people always kill the neutral animals like that little crab? Well, when you kill the critters on the map, let me try to find one. Critters, here's a crab. If you kill this little guy, he has 15 health, so he dies in one attack. He leaves you a corpse. What you do with a corpse is you can use your Rod of Necromancy. Creates 2 skeleton warriors from a corpse. That's why you kill the critters, because yes, you can kill one of these creeps and get a corpse, but like 400 health, 400, 375, it's much easier just to one-shot the critter. You can even kill it with your Scout Acolyte and get 2 skeletons. That's why we see people killing them. If they're not undead players and they're killing them because they don't want to get blocked by them later in the future, because they actually have collision and they can block you.
Our forces are under attack.
We are now going to see how difficult it is to kill one of Moon's wisps. We saw a fake coil already. And of course, you're faking the coils to force the detonate because you know that Moon's just going to dodge the coil with a detonate anyway. But look at this. He gets up. This is a very stupid detail to focus on, but he gets up close as though he was about to right-click the wisp, right? Like he was getting up to it and the DK was about to raise his arm like he was going to attack it because he was within melee range. And then instead of a right-click coming down, he coils with that animation. Kind of a cool little detail, because that's how hard it is to kill one of Moon's wisps without him getting a detonate off. And he gets the experience. Alright, so let's keep an eye on the scouting, right? Let's keep an eye on the scouting. Moon's scouting is, of course, immaculate as ever. He has a wisp here. He knew where the Death Knight is when he lost that wisp earlier. 120 currently only has the skeleton just at the expansion. He hasn't scouted right here for the expansion. He hasn't scouted right here for the expansion. And most importantly of all, he doesn't know where the Keeper is. These are 3 things that Happy at this stage, when he had gone back to creep his expansion, he had already scouted all this. Remember, Happy and Foggy had this little exchange at the shop where they fought over the staff, and then Happy saw Foggy's keeper leave, and he also had skeletons scouting all over the place during this time. He knew that his ghouls were safe to creep this. Oh, the classic, why is there 2 skeletons from 1 corpse question. But 120 scouting has been a little bit lackadaisical. There we see a detonate dodge. Because look, this is it. This is his whole scouting. The tree's not going to be there, 120. And what do we know? The keeper. This is what happens when we don't know the positioning of the keeper. Now we're going to lose some ghouls. So this is a, although worth noting that 120 is doing the same thing as Happy. He got backpack, he got the same number of ghouls, same tech timing, same scout acolyte, same Death Knight movement across the map to creep Jack at the expansion. 120 did the same everything, but he's losing ghouls and he's going to be behind after the early game. Why? Because of the small details of where the scouting is, where the skeletons are. This is what separates Happy being the best undead probably of all time from 120 being an extremely good undead player, but not at Happy's level. He's a little bit under Happy's level. These are the small little details, and 120 is going to be behind now because of this. Which is extremely important in this matchup in particular. Because you need to know where the keeper is, because the keeper has an ability that can kill a unit if they're out of position. Yeah. No one tell 120 I criticized him. No one tell him, please. And 2 ghouls are going to fall for this. You're going to pay the iron price with 2 ghouls here, guys.
Summoning is complete.
Two skeletons chasing the keeper, so they're doing a lot of things. But 120 can be confident that he could creep something right now if he wanted to, because he sees the keeper's out of mana. But again, he still has to scout, is there an expansion coming up? Again, honestly, if I'm holding 120 to the highest of standards right now, which I am, and that's why we're analyzing his replays, because he is an excellent player, his scouting's been kind of bad this game. It's been kind of bad. He doesn't even know if there's an expansion coming up yet, which he can assume there is, of course, but he doesn't know. Now, it's been exactly the same as Happy. Everything he's been doing has been exactly the same as Happy, but, you know, Happy just did a lot more things precisely, and, you know, this can make the difference. It's been kind of bad, though, hasn't it? He's not even scouting with these skeletons currently, when he could be. He doesn't know if there's an expansion coming up. He doesn't know if he can leave his base with his ghouls. He also doesn't have, this is a big difference, he doesn't have the Staff of Teleportation that Happy had. But of course, the Staff of Teleportation wouldn't come into play quite yet. It comes into play once the Lich is out and once the Death Knight's level 3. So that he can pressure the Demon Hunter. What is another thing that 120 has not scouted quite yet, guys? What is another thing? Something that wasn't game losing or game winning, so to speak, but still an important detail that Happy nailed last game. What's one thing he didn't scout for yet? Tech, a little bit late to be scouting for that, or a little bit early, rather. The Expo, yeah, of course, as we pointed out, he hadn't scouted for the Expo. Now he's going to get creep jacked. This is just going to happen. Ancient of War, yeah, thank you, Tankster. Ancient of War. And if we were to scout for the Ancient of War, where will we see it? What do you know? What do you know? Now, of course, Foggy's Ancient of War had moved over to this camp. Of course, it was here. But look at the Ancient of War. Well, what do you think about that? If we knew that the Ancient of War was not at a camp ready to creep by the time the Demon Hunter came out, what can we assume? We can assume either the Demon Hunter is going to be creeping very small camps, like maybe this camp, or maybe he'll be creeping very aggressively. This camp, maybe he'll be trying to steal a camp away from us, maybe this, which would be tricky. But if we knew the Ancient of War positioning, we would be able to guarantee that the Demon Hunter probably wouldn't be here, close to guarantee, or here. And now, again, 120 is going to get caught out by the Demon Hunter, because he doesn't have the information that the Ancient War positioning would provide. He also doesn't know about this tree life, but he's probably assuming. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. A small detail, but an important one that Happy did not mess up on. But still, 120 gets the value from the marketplace. He gets the greater mana. And he's also slowing down indirectly the creeping of the Demon Hunter, which isn't too bad, all things considered. Kills an archer. And just imagine at this point, because this is what Happy and 120 probably would both go for if they were able to. Imagine if Moon was the one creeping right now, and 120 was on top of him with level 3 Death Knight, level 1 Lich with a Potion of Greater Mana. Imagine if Moon was trying to creep like this camp, or this camp, and 120 creepjacked him with a Staff of Teleportation and both of his heroes. Moon would probably lose like 4 archers. Pretty easily. Now, I have to go, I'm going to restart the replay. I'm going to restart the replay and I'm going to watch the skeleton because I missed it. It was a 1 second window we have to see what the skeleton saw. Wait, unless I...
Our forces are under attack.
Yep, okay, I'm restarting the replay. I'm going to go to 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Wait, we have a 1 second window for this. Okay, fast forwarding 64 times to 7.5 minutes. This is okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Wait for it. Alright. This skeleton is what we're going to follow, guys. This skeleton. So we have information of where the Keeper and the Demon are. We know they're around this general area as we run away from them. Okay, and they run away from us. Now we've lost the information on them. The skeleton, which is good, goes up to try to find out where they're going. And look at this. Look at this. Oh! Oh! You see that? 1 second. Now, as I said, I'm holding 120 to the highest of standards. He sees the army going, boop, running down. So what does that mean? Well, the army's either going here, or he's going round town to go here. Now, did 120 see this archer? I don't know, because I had to restart the replay to see it. But the information has been gained, and if we're holding these players to the highest of standards, the information is there. 120 knows he doesn't have destroyers yet. He's got no way of dispelling. He knows that Moon is lurking in the shadows close to a camp that he was about to creep. Now, Happy when he went for this creep, remember, although the spawns were flipped, right? So Happy had just staffed away from here. Foggy was creeping this. His base was at the top left. And Happy literally saw Foggy's Demon Hunter and Keeper run up this way. In which case, Happy was confident that he could creep the lab. Now, this is the same exact timing that Happy crept the lab. He was about to hit tier 3. He had his first statue out, remember? And 120 is doing the same thing again, but he's doing the same thing, but without gaining the information that he needed to gain before he went for it. Here's the information. Although he might have missed this, he still knew the Keeper was in this area, and he's still going to go for this creep. Risky boy, which you could say is a difference between Happy and 120. 120 is much more willing to take risks, whereas Happy is much more wants to just play a consistent, solid game and be able to win the fights later on, I would say. But still, Moon knows what's going on, and he's going to creepjack this. 120 is going to do some crisis management here and actually play this pretty well, but he's still going to take some losses. Greater mana used, that's a loss. You would love to use that greater mana in a different position, but he kills the Demon Hunter, loses a Fiend. For some reason, Moon bought a Sapper. We're not analyzing what the Night Elves are doing, so don't ask me why. Might have been a misclick. He might have been trying to get a Shredder. And of course, he's out of Golden Lumber now that they bought that, so... What's up, Kiro? I think Moon was trying to buy a Shredder there, is why. But he kills a statue. But he does significant damage there. Although Moon took some damage, like I said, 120, resolved that pretty well as he could. But this is a very vulnerable time for the Undead. He would love to be as powerful as he possibly could with the Orb, with the Destroyers, with all the Fiends. But he's not. Looks like a game of cat and mouse until the Undead gets Destro. Yeah, absolutely. Now this is a small difference. This is what I said Happy could have done had he known the tech timing of Foggy. He could have built this tower, and if Happy had this tower by the time Foggy tried to break the expansion with like 65 supply Dryads last game, if he had the Spirit Tower already, there's no chance Foggy's going to be able to fight in range of this tower, right? So this is the difference that I'm talking about. If you want to play this style and you're not sure if you're going to be able to hold that sort of a timing, go for the early Spirit Tower like 120 is doing right here. He's not playing it as risky as Happy did. You know, and he's not scouting for the tech timing, so, you know, he should be pairing this Ziggurat with scouting the tech of Moon. Let's just take a sneak peek. Still on tier 2, but, I mean, he might go tier 3, like, right now, because we can see he's still 46 supply, he hasn't broken upkeep or anything, and he still has to get Demounter level 3, so there's still, you know, we could scout a little bit later, but still. Safety. Safety at the expansion. Can't be broken by a 65 supply Dryad push, right? Safety. Yeah, he doesn't have the same info, of course. Yeah, he doesn't have the same amount of info, for sure. And he knows that Moon was already playing very aggressively. He creep-jacked him twice already this game, whereas Foggy had not done that quite yet. Another Potion of Greater Mana. Can't complain with that, can we? But same everything, right? There's a very fine, small details of difference. No Staff of Teleportation, earlier tower, worse scouting. But everything other than that was pretty much exactly the same between Happy and 120. Again, the Keeper isn't too much of a risk right now, because we have level 2 Coil and statues. We're about to have Destroyers, if we don't already. Don't believe we do. You know, it's not that much of a risk, though. That's what I'm trying to say. What we should be trying to scout, though, is the main base, if possible, right now. Because we want to see... We still want to see, even if we know we're safe with this tower, although this could be a Spirit Tower, right? It'd probably be much better to be a Spirit Tower. Nerubian's still pretty good, though. We do want to still see, is Moon teching or is Moon trying to all-in? 120 is worth noting. He doesn't even know if there's an expansion yet. He's just been assuming this whole time. And he's assuming correctly, right? Assuming correctly. But he doesn't know. Why Spirit Tower? Well, just against Dryads. In the case that, in my opinion, in the case that Moon had teched, Nerubian's better because it's better against the heroes. But in the case that Moon hadn't teched, as he is halfway to tier 3, in the case that Moon hadn't teched, Spirit Tower would be good because it's much better against Dryads. But this is good against heroes. Spirit Tower good against Dryads. Yeah, exactly. That, in my opinion, not entirely. I don't know if I'm right, but that's what I would assume. Yeah. Notice the Nerubian's very good at harassing like this, whereas the Spirit Tower wouldn't do much. Wouldn't do much. The Destroyer, we saw this exact same thing from Happy. Remember, it was reverse spawns, but Happy sent his Destroyers over the trees. He sent his Death Knight back. The Keeper was here harassing the expansion as it was building. Same thing. Same thing.
Our forces are under attack. Research complete.
Yeah, I think Nerubian is probably the better choice overall, but they both have specific uses, I would argue. Yeah. But if you could only get like one tower at your expansion for the entire game, it would probably be a Nerubian, right? Worth noting, as soon as 120 gets his expansion up, this is pretty similar to what Happy did, although I think Happy broke a little tiny bit earlier because he was under a bit more pressure, but as soon as the expansion's fully saturated, he breaks upkeep. He breaks upkeep with an Abomination and a Fiend. He most likely already has Disease Cloud. We'll confirm that when the Abomination comes out, but he most likely already has Disease Cloud. Just break an upkeep right away. He's not breaking upkeep with meat wagons like Happy did, because he wasn't pressured by Mass Dryads, so he essentially can assume that it's going to be Bear Hippogriffs coming his way. Because Moon's playing a more macro game. He's not looking to break the expansion. He's looking to play 2-base. Moon's looking to eventually get a 3rd base up. Try to just play the long con. Creep up the map, fight over creeps, get a strong 80 supply army with strong upgrades. That's what Moon's looking to do. Second Crypt, this is a little bit different. Happy didn't actually get a second Crypt. Cool little A-bomb block. No, he doesn't actually have Disease Cloud. Could have maybe gotten that before breaking upkeep, but that just goes to show how much 120 values breaking upkeep early. In that he didn't get Disease Cloud before he broke upkeep with that Abomination. This ghoul is scouting as he's pushing. I would guess to 1, because you're playing against Moon, to check if Moon has expanded here. 2, it might be to check if this has been crept so that he can build another expansion behind this push. Because as we remember, when Happy pushed, right here, the expansion of Foggy, he expanded here behind it. He built a second base. So maybe what 120's thought process is just similar to Happy's. I'm going to push with my strong 64 supply army, right? With tier 3, with Fiends, you know. Maybe he doesn't have Bear Master Training quite yet, although we know that Moon does. Just going to push with that, and maybe expand behind it is maybe the thought process. But of course, it's not fully crept yet, so he might have to pull a couple more ghouls to do it. But keep an eye out for maybe if he's going to go for, maybe build an Acolyte and go for that expansion behind this push. I don't think it'd be a bad choice for 120. Hey, Eva Core says, with the Prime with 6 months, says, thanks for the cool analysis. Well, thank you for the sub and watching. Appreciate it. So this push would generally be with a purpose. Either he thinks he can kill Moon right here, right now, or he wants to buy space for another expansion. I would argue. Maybe it's the latter, though. Or maybe it's the former. That's what you say, right? Former. As we can see, bears and hippos. Is there web researching? There is now. Web, of course, only takes 30 seconds to research, so you can research it when you're already pushing. It's not a big mistake. It's totally fine. Hey, Minimum CJ with the Prime for 20 months. Thank you very much. Web's about to finish. We'll just take a sneak peek at the second crypt, by the way. Producing. Not producing here, because he's a bit shy on gold, but 2 crypts now. 2 crypts for mass production. Upgrades are 0-1 versus 1-0 right now. Relatively similar upgrades. We will see both Happy and 120 prioritizing 3-0 most times, and then get a single armor upgrade on their Fiends. Not often do we see them get 3-3 unless it's very late game. One thing I think 120 could be, one thing that actually kind of hurt him now that I think back to it, is he misrallied a statue in at the beginning of the fight up here and lost it. And this is a position where we'd see a lot of people happy, by a lot of people, morph 3 destroyers immediately. So you keep the numbers of hippogriffs down with web, you still have Fiends alive, and then you have 2 statues in the back and 1 destroyer in the air, and you pop both statues and have triple destroyer. Once you have triple destroyer and the anti-air in the way of the hippogriffs has been dealt with, the bears just die immediately. And yeah, there aren't a lot of bears right now, but there's soon probably going to be a couple more coming out, and So if you're able to have 3 statues with you during the fight, or 2 statues and a destroyer, and then later in the fight, after you've already killed all the hippogriffs, which is relatively easy to do, you might lose some fiends, but at least you lose fiends for killing the anti-air, then you just immediately pop 2 more destroyers and kill all the bears. And then your Lich with Orb can kill the Dryads. It's very common, but because 120 misrallied a statue in earlier, he has only got 1 statue in the back now, which, you know, he kind of wants to keep, so it's hard for him to deal with the bears very effectively. But he is slowly chipping away at them. This is partially, I imagine, the reason for the 2 Crypt Fiends as well, so he has enough Fiends to web all the hippogriffs, because it's very important to kill the hippogriffs, or else it's difficult to deal with the bears. Miscoils a Fiend, but that's alright. Well, not really alright, because he doesn't have another coil, but he's slogging it out, right? He's slogging it out and he's trading. That's a nice surround on the Demon Hunter with the staff ready. He's slogging it out. And again, I would have liked to see just an expansion behind this too. Pull 3 ghouls, finish up the creeps, and expand behind this push. That would have been great. The gold mine would have been up by now, right? It would have been up. But again, on even economy, if it's 2 base versus 2 base, I would give the edge to the undead. Especially with the heroes scaling into the late game. You know, DK Lich is going to scale much better than a keeper, not necessarily than a demon hunter, but certainly than a keeper. Yeah, still no disease cloud, another slight error from 120 for sure. Moon always has perfect wisp positioning everywhere he goes, which is nice for him. Okay, now he's sending the ghouls to go finish up that expansion and to probably expand again there. Oh, but what do you know, Moon's there too. A little bit too late. And the reason why Moon's here right now is I imagine Moon was expecting there to already be a constructed expansion here from this push. Which is why Moon almost seems to have a sixth sense and just find these ghouls right away. It's because he's actually looking for something else. He's looking for an already haunted gold mine here, is my guess. But 120 didn't do that. Which I think that would have been probably the best play here in this position. Something that Happy did do, worth noting. More abominations coming out. Still no disease cloud? No, still no disease cloud. Was this camp crapped? What did Moon get from that camp?
Research
He must have sold it, whatever he got. Unless it was clause plus 12? Let's check. For some reason, I'm curious what he got from the red camp. It was clause 12. Okay. Now he's got the 3-0, which is very strong. And now he's got the potential for the triple destroyers. You just have to have enough fiends to deal with the numbers of hippogriffs, and then the destroyers will solve the rest. But no disease cloud, still 120. But there's not a lot of hippogriffs. Which was a great thing about the fight that 120 took previously, is he killed a lot of the hippogriffs. And you see he's always prioritizing the hippogriffs right away at the start of the fight. He might lose some fiends, but he's always prioritizing the hippogriffs. Because once you kill the hippogriffs, the bears, these bears are very easy to kill with just destroyers and heroes. So trading fiends or a couple abominations for all the hippogriffs is a trade well worth making. And now I think morphing this third statue would be a great choice. There it is, and now the bears are going to melt. That is how you win these fights. You kite the hippogriffs, you kill them, and then you morph all your statues, and you kill the bears. Much easier said than done, of course, but that's how you do it. Kills the Demon Hunter, which is just the power of having 5/5 heroes, I suppose. The Demon Hunter even had Rune Bracers. Lich going to be forced into an invuln. But notice the bear's really not scary anymore once you have those triple destroyers up in the air. Really not scary anymore. Again, behind this, I think a great choice for 120 would be to re-expand, even if he expanded here, because he's always been pushing from the left side of the base. I think another expansion would be a great choice for 120, who has the bank to do it, but he's really been just mass-producing this entire time. 2 Crypt Fiends, constantly building destroyers and statues. So perhaps that's why. Perhaps he said, I'll skip the second base, and just constantly break up, keep build units, and keep pushing. Town Portal Pass, a nice TP force from Moon, because if not, he probably was going to lose the game right here. Level 6 heroes. No ultimates. Of course, Death Knight ultimate wouldn't be useful. Death and Decay would be Entangle cancelled. Dark Ritual 2 over Frost Armor 2, Remo's crying. Yes, I suppose there is some debate to be had there. But in this matchup, I would say Dark Ritual 2 probably better, of course, against a level 5 Demon Hunter. Dark Ritual 2 is probably stronger overall, and once the main gold mines is out, those Acolytes, pretty juicy. A slight difference between Happy and 120 is, but albeit if the game went late enough, maybe Happy would have done this as well. Note, both of his heroes are level 6. Even at level 5, he might have done this. They're not going to get much stronger, right? He's got level 3 Aura, level 3 Coil, he's got level 3 Nova. He doesn't need much more of his heroes. Why not get a Dark Ranger to silence the Demon Hunter to avoid the first mana burn? Why not? You might lose it, but even if you get an extra Coil Nova off because of the one silence, it's well worth it, I would say. So yeah, Dark Ranger, but not before both heroes are highly leveled. He wouldn't get this when the Death Knight was 3 and the Lich was 2. Because then, you know, his heroes would be stuck on 4-4 right now, and his Dark Ranger would be level 3 and silencing a Demon Hunter, right? Getting it this late, I think, is an excellent choice. Which is a slight difference from what Happy did. Especially when you're in such a dominant position where you can just win fights. And when you can nuke the heroes down. Now, Moon is doing Moon things because Moon is very far behind, and he's just going to play hit and run for a little while here, but fear not, the game is over. Fear not. And how did 120 do it? Well, he didn't worry about getting a second expansion up. He instead built a second crypt, produced lots and lots of fiends, continuously fought and traded the Hippogriffs out for some other units. He traded the Hippogriffs out, and then took another fight when there was very limited Hippogriff numbers. Once the Hippogriffs were dealt with, he morphed destroyers. The bears were no longer scary. This is what 120 did. Everything else was relatively the same from Happy's games, right? Expansion at the same timing for the same reason. Push at the same time for a different reason. Same early game creep routes. Same unit compositions, minus the meat wagons. And one piece of advice, if you guys are ever playing Moon, don't assume the game is over at this point, even though I am. But if you're playing Moon, you can lose in this situation. Absolutely, you can lose. This is Moon's bread and butter right here. Treant's killing this. Scouting for another expansion. Now 120 is expanding again, because of course he lost this expansion. Yes, never assume you've won when you're playing against Moon, I think should be the #1 lesson from today, everybody. If you're playing Moon, I gotta assure you won't be in this position, yeah. 23 minutes in, about to beat him. Just 3-0 Fiend upgrades, right? No Abomination upgrades. I mean, I think that'd be quite the luxury to get maybe 2 armor upgrades on the Abominations. But of course, I think 120 would definitely prioritize an armor upgrade on the Fiends before an armor upgrade on the single, maybe 2 Abominations that he's got in this game. Look how good Moon is. Look at this. He's still, like, he's making 1-2-0 back off. And he's at, like, he's 20 supply down. But no, the only reason 1-2-0 is actually backing off, he's trying to kill the Hippogriffs, and then he'll engage the bears after he kills the Hippogriffs. That's all he's going for, right? He even town portals out. Look at the respect. Look at the respect. Town portals out, I imagine, because he had no coils left. He had a mana pot, but no invuln on the Lich. He'll soon have no coils. Playing it safe, right? Playing it safe. Always play it safe against Moon. Always play it safe. Now he buys an invuln, right? Now he's got, I think, 2 coils. Let me click on it. Now he's got 2 coils, still has a mana pot, so now he's in a much safer position than he was. So it's probably a heal scroll. Maybe a TP even. Heal scroll. And 1-2-0 knows at this point, as we all should, the Tree of Eternity is probably right here. Oh, I'm good at this. There's the Tree of Eternity. Is going to go root at the expansion. Although it could root here. Maybe. This is the safer expansion in this position, so. 1-2-0 knows eventually Moon's going to be mining again, so he's got to go end the game soon. That's a whole lot of acolytes. Again, we're just seeing how good destroyers are against bears. Undead players, you say they're not good, but they certainly are good against bears. That's for sure. That is for sure. Does he throw? Yeah, how funny would it be if if 1-2-0 just lost this game after all this analysis? Yeah, and then he loses. But you know, we've said there's 1-2-0 has not been without mistakes this game, right? But the mistakes he made were not necessarily in the mid to late game, right? They were mostly in the early game. And now here, perfectly on time. Forcing the fight. Getting the good positioning. What the hell is he doing? Oh, he thinks there's a red camp available still. But nope, Moon got that. And see, even 1-2-0 doesn't check items. He didn't even see the Demon Hunter at clause plus 12. Or he would have definitely known it was taken already.
Our forces are under attack.
And Moon trying to hold on to the expansion, but there's no anti-air, and the destroyers are very good against bears, as I said. And he's staffing to the Tree of Eternity that's right beside him, which is another cool thing about how do you know, about why you would push this Tree of Eternity. Because the big reason why the Night Elf is able to win these fights is to just continuously staff everything out, right? You can't do that if you move your Tree of Eternity. There is Tidehunters, everybody. There is Tidehunters. So a lot of cool things. A lot of cool things there. What were some similarities we saw there? The major would be the creep route. They both had very similar creep routes. They both had same expo timings. They both had same late or mid-game push timing, right? What else did they have? What else? Expo positioning, maybe. They both expanded at the turtles. They both prioritized 5/5 DK Lich. They both prioritized. They didn't get a third hero, for instance. 1-2-0 did, but not till very late. Right? Scouting. They scouted for similar things, but Happy just did it much better. Some differences. Scout was different slightly, I would say. That's why I put an asterisk next to it. But they were still, I mean, 120 was still trying his best. He sure was trying his best to scout those things. The skeleton, when he got creepjacked at the lab, the skeleton was even in position to see it, but it was just maybe a little mistimed. A couple of differences would be, I'll get rid of these. So those are the similarities that I would say in those games, the major similarities. Of course, there were probably more, but be small potatoes. The big differences were Staff of Telly for Happy. Happy got one. 120 didn't. DR late game after 6-6, although Happy might have done the same had the game gone as late as 120's did. We might see that in the future replays. Tower at Expo. 120 got a tower at the Expo to stay safe, a Nerubian, whereas Happy did not, and it almost actually costed Happy, but it didn't in the end. Meat wagons. Happy got a couple of meat wagons, but 120 didn't feel he needed them because Moon went tier 3 much earlier than Foggy did, whereas if Moon had stayed on tier 2 and gone for much a much bigger commitment into Dryads, then maybe meat wagons would have been something 120 would have gotten. What else? Anything else, guys? Anything else? 120 was one of the pioneer skeleton scouts, absolutely, but now Happy has definitely taken the crown, I would say. That's something that Happy just does so well. So well. Any other glaring differences between these two? I mean, I will say the Night Elves played pretty similarly. Foggy did a little bit of a different style from Moon, but the builds were still relatively the same. Yeah, and, you know, he's always scouting with a purpose, Happy. He's always gaining information that is actually useful to him. He's not just throwing scouts out, which I, as like a lower level player, understand this. You know, you go for a scout and you just sort of leave it there. You just like right click it to one place on your mini map and you just say, okay, at least I did it, right? At least I sent a scout out onto the map. But Happy's not doing that because he's such a great player. He's always sending a scout to gain a specific piece of information, and then he's actually using that piece of information to react in a specific way. So cool. Yeah, I think that if you're talking about the late game when they both traded expansions, I think that was totally on Moon, just playing the super late game in that last game very well, although he was too far behind to come back. I think that was totally on Moon. Oh, that reminds me, actually, one thing that 120 didn't do that Happy did was a third Expo behind push, which I think is a very important point. 120 put more priority in trading units down to the point where there was not a lot of anti-air so the destroyers could fight, whereas Happy put much emphasis on the economic game, which are both valid, perhaps. Both valid. I would prefer the expansion style, the getting a third base behind that big push at 60 supply. But 120 disagrees, and maybe that has something to do with the way the game went, because of course Moon and Foggy did slightly different builds in the mid game, so that could have an impact, but still worth noting. All right, so that's Tidehunters, and now we're gonna do the same thing, but on Autumn Leaves. We got 2 more replays. We're gonna let's take a 4-minute break. I'm gonna get a cookie. I'm gonna drink this tea. And we'll be back with Autumn Leaves analysis in the same way we just did it. Stick around, be right back, guys. All right, welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to jump into Autumn Leaves. This will be replay 3 and 4. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with Happy, and then we're going to go into 120 afterwards. The Happy game will again be against Foggy, of course, who's the top competition in terms of Night Elves for Happy currently. And then 120 will be playing against Colorful, who's arguably 3rd best Night Elf in the world, 2nd best Night Elf in the world currently. Very, very strong player, not to be underestimated just because he may not be as much of a household name as Moon is. He's an extremely strong player. So we'll start with Happy against Foggy on Autumn Leaves, and Again, we'll try to tag the differences between the two players. We'll try to keep an eye out for what the creep routes are, what the timings are, when and why they push certain places on the map, what creep camps are contested, all that sort of stuff. Let's check it out. Analysis demonstrates why Hitman #1. Man, Hitman teaches me. He teaches me everything. He teaches me everything. All the orc days, Hitman afterwards is like, you know, you could have said this, but it was about 95% correct, right? But with these 5% of things, you know, next time don't mess them up, you know. I always get a checklist of incorrect and correct things from Hitman, which is appreciated. Appreciated. All right, here is replay number 3. Here's Happy in the top right, and as we change the proper vision, here is Foggy in the bottom left. And Autumn Leaves, of course, a new map, just as Tidehunters is. And we're going to get a good look at it. Going to get a real good look at it. Would you just look at it? Again, a ghoul opener, which is honestly done on... Can I think of a map where ghoul opener is not standard in this matchup? No, I cannot. Nope. Standard on every map now. Standard on every map, right? Unless somebody dispute that. Standard on every map, I think. Keeper, of course. Death Knight, of course. Exactly the same as last game. Scout Acolyte. Let's go back to Happy's vision and take a look at what information he's trying to gain here. He's trying to see what the hero is, where the Ancient War positioning is. On Autumn Leaves, there are a couple of positions. There's 3 Ancient War positions. The most common is this. The second most common is this. I think I got that right. This. For the expansion creep first. The third most common and not seen too often is the shop, which we've seen Laliat do, but not many other elves do, from what I've seen. So that's what we're going to be looking for. We see the Ancient War positioning. Now we need to see what the hero is, if we can muster up the courage from our Acolyte to do so. Take that. And that. And that. Let's see if there's backpack being researched or anything crazy. Of course, when the shop is done is when we're able to research it, so let's see. Not quite yet. Death Knight comes out. Rod. Doesn't sell TP, doesn't buy dust. Is actually going to creep with the Death Knight and the ghouls this time.
Our forces are under attack.
And worth noting, there's 2 positionings where a tree life could be. Right here, typically, this whole sort of area. Or right this whole sort of area. Those are the 2 positions where the tree of life will be built on this map, or similarly up here or right here. So that's where we need to scout for the trees in the future. Notice Happy. This is so sick from Happy. He does this every time, too. Every time. As soon as he summons skeletons, even though he's already scouted with an Acolyte, he still just sends a skeleton. Of course, he's chasing a wisp with this guy, but he's still just sending a skeleton out. He wants to know, is the Keeper running across the map? Is the Keeper, like, gonna go creep this, like, pull this with Entangle and creep? He just wants to know if there's anything crazy going on. He immediately follows up the Acolyte Scout with the Skeleton Scout, wastes no time with it, because information is what Happy wants. All day, every day. We're going to see a kind of a cool creep out. I like this from Happy. Note, he gets Gloves of Haste from this camp, and he could go towards the expansion, but that wouldn't give him a potential claw drop. Instead, he's going to go to the shop, which could give him a potential claw, circlet, Gloves of Haste, and remember from the first replay, racks on racks on racks on the Lich. That's what Happy wants. Look at this. Skeleton sees where the Keeper is, and importantly sees that the Keeper isn't creeping this as a second camp, which could mean the expansion's coming up very early. He's also scouting this area with that skeleton, scouting this area with the Acolyte. Happy has all the information in the world right now. All the information. And he's got level 2, and he gets a claws. What do you know? That's why he's doing this creep route. Not because he wouldn't get level 2 from going and creeping the expansion, but because he gets another claws. Another potential for a claws. What does that mean, racks on racks on racks? It just means he likes to get very strong items on his Lich as early as possible. Colloquially. And the skeleton saw the second camp for Foggy, so Happy knows the obvious third camp would be the expansion. If not, he maybe would go to the shop or something, but there's an acolyte by the shop to scout that. So Happy pretty much knows he's going to get an archer for his troubles as well. Let's get a quick ghoul count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yet again. Does that put us at 27? It does, because our acolyte is still alive. And a graveyard coming up. So again, 8 ghouls for Happy. Leave space for a fiend or a statue without getting a third ziggurat. Same thing 120 did as well, worth noting. Ghoul chasing an archer, because why not? Acolyte goes into the base. He sees where the keeper is, right? He knows the keeper is going to the right-hand side. He's going to continue to be aggressive. So this is a much more aggressive game from Happy than last was. Yes, Happy harassed with the Death Knight, but remember, he was solo creeping with the ghouls, and he was very scared to bring the ghouls out. Whereas on this map, he is aware that Foggy is going to struggle to get level 3 keeper. Let's take a look at his experience, although we can see it up here. Let's just look at the bar. It would be tricky for Foggy to get level 3 keeper, right? If he was able to finish both these trappers, which of course we know he wasn't because Happy was there to creep jack in time. Even if he killed both these trappers, he'd still be a camp away from getting level 3. He'd have to take one of these green camps, which the Acolyte was scouting. He'd have to take this, which is tricky, right? He'd have to take maybe his shop, which the Acolyte was scouting. So Happy knows that it's difficult for the keeper to get level 3 on this map. So he's able to bring the ghouls across, and although there might be entangle on the ghouls, he's got coils to counter it. So Happy's happy to be aggressive here. 6 ghouls with hero because if he brings all 8, his lumber will be extremely low. If we look at Happy's lumber right now, he's only got actually 100. And he actually did build a 9th ghoul, by the way. He built another ghoul, so he's got 3 at home is typically what you want to support one base economy. But notice his lumber. He's built a Ziggurat and a Nerubian to be safe. His lumber's still low. So he needs these 3 back at home, or even at least 2 back at home. Or else his lumber's going to be terrible, and he's not going to be able to tech to tier 3, get his Slaughterhouse, get his Lich once he hits tier 2. So he needs at least 2 or 3 to have enough lumber if he's going to be aggressive with them. Continue to be aggressive. This 1 delays the keeper, and 2, it also stops Foggy from being able to build a very, very early expansion. Because Happy's so far out on the map, Foggy cannot safely build an expansion, especially with the skeleton probably going over to scout it right now. Sees the keeper going up. The reason the keeper's going up right now is because Foggy wants to threaten a base run by to buy. If I unhide the Fog of War, Foggy's most likely building an expansion right now. So Happy's going to try to get value out of it, and Happy's going to be well aware that Foggy's constructing an expansion at the same time as this. That's another archer. That's 2 archers. And the ghouls go to creep. Again, he still wants to get level 3, still wants to get good Lich items. He wants to have level 3 by the time the Demon Hunter comes out. Let's check if Foggy was building an expansion. It would be around here. And there it is. So Foggy pushes Happy back to his base, builds the expansion. Happy's well aware of this, but Happy just says, okay, I'll just get level 3 Death Knight, and then he'll probably go get his Staff of Teleportation, and then he'll try to pressure the Demon Hunters creeping, so he's going to have to scout where the Ancient War is, right? These are all things that we've talked about in the previous 2 replays. See what item he gets. Slippers. Would love a mantle, but not the end of the world. Wouldn't be surprised to see Happy get another Rod of Necromancy so he could scout. Yep. Because if not, he has no real easy way of scouting consistently. Maybe he missed that corpse. I think that would have been a good position to get skeletons. And again, his techs. Immediately tier 3 gets his Lich, then he'll get his Slaughterhouse. The Lich is going to come out. Going to buy Staff of Teleportation most likely here. Staff of Teleportation would stop him from any funny business of getting surrounded on the Death Knight, had that happen. But of course, level 3 also helps to fight out of surrounds, so a couple important things. Slaughterhouse comes up. And Happy doesn't necessarily know where the Ancient War was. He wasn't sure where the Ancient War was, but I'm sure, you know, he was happy to know where the Keeper and the Demon were at this stage. Sells the dust as he buys staff. Doesn't actually buy staff. Instead, he's choosing just to creep with the Lich. But of course, he's creeping with the Lich while he knows where the Keeper was. The Keeper was just right here. That's where he saw him. And yeah, the Keeper might be running up. But now he sees the Keeper yet again, playing it safe. Lich gets level 2. Is he going to get staff now? There's the staff. Is he bringing the Lich across? Yes, he is. He's got staff bringing the Lich across. And now he's going to pressure the creeping of the Demon Hunter, because the Demon Hunter most likely is creeping this because he already saw where he was. And now he's able to do what he wasn't able to do on Tidehunters, and that's kill archers, stop the Demon Hunter from getting level 3 very, very early, all the while he's teching. All the while he's not losing units to entangle. All the while he's getting value from essentially just being across the map. And look, he even steals the item, he even gets claws +9, and the Lich is looking terrifying. And believe me, this isn't going to be the end of the plus damage on the Lich. There's going to be a whole lot more of this game. Happy successfully delayed the Demon Hunter's creeping by quite a bit, sending a skeleton to see where the Demon Hunter goes next, and just continues to take. Again, this is a camp that drops claws. So Happy has now gotten 1, 2, 3. Wait, which one did I count? And 4. Was it this one that I didn't count as 4, or was it this one I didn't count as 4? He's gotten 4 spots on the map that could drop claws. And he creep-jacked Foggy here, and almost stole what could have been, you know, like a Mantle of Intelligence. He's gotten 4 claw spots, which is really important. Fool me once, I can't get fooled again. He gets Gloves of Haste, another extremely good Lich item. All the while, scouting with a skeleton to see. Most likely, Foggy's like right here is what I would assume, or he's in the middle. Or scouting the expansion timing, very important. Now he's tier 3.
Our forces are under attack.
Sees where the Keeper is. Again, more important information. Sees Dryads that are out. Lots and lots of information being gained. Always knows where the Keeper is. Always knows the timing of everything. Always knows what has been crept and what has not been crept. And uses that information to take camps away aggressively. That wasn't necessarily an aggressive creep camp, but he still gobbled the item while he could with his 2 heroes. Getting Frenzy, Destroyer form, got his orb. And building the Acolyte to go for the expansion. Just like on Tidehunters. Same game with a little slightly more of an aggressive early game, right?
Research complete. Our forces are under attack.
Skeletons again on top of the Keeper. And again, he would love to, like he did in, or like he didn't rather, I suppose, or he got it a little bit late in the first game, scout the tech timing of Foggy to see, is Foggy going straight tier 3 or is he massing Dryads? That'd be important to know. He builds the Necropolis and the Gold Mine, doesn't build the tower quite yet, but notice he's creeping close by in case Foggy comes for a cancel. He's ready to defend the expansion right now.
Research complete.
Sentry Wards is a great pickup. I wouldn't be surprised to see a scout soon, but like the issue right now for Happy is, what do you scout with? He sold his Staff of Teleportation because he already got the value from it, in that he would harass this with it, right? He doesn't have a Rod of Necromancy. He would have to sacrifice a Ghoul just into the main base to see the tech timing, which we know is still tier 2 with a Shredder from Foggy. But if we scouted maybe in like 20, 30 seconds and we don't see a tier 3 tech, that's when we start to get worried, right? Because this expo wasn't very early. This is actually a later expansion than it was on Tidehunters, right? So if we scout in maybe 30 seconds and see there's no tier 3 tech, that's when we start to say, okay, he might be trying to break my expansion. Yeah, Happy is very, on this map, seems to be very focused on stealing away key camps away from Foggy. Stealing away the claw camps. Especially, stealing away, these 2 camps were very crucial to him. Not before getting his own, though. His own 2 claw camps early on. Which is why I like this creep route so much, because look at the Lich. This Lich isn't, although he got lucky with some of the drops, the reason why his Lich is so strong right now is because he proactively searched for those items and tried to contest those camps on Foggy's side. Because he's aware on Autumn Leaves, and this is by design, there's not a ton of camps that drop these crazy Lich items. There's only 4 that drop these items. Well, not the Claws +9, there's 2 of these, but there's only 4 that drop the Gloves of Haste to the Claws +5. By design. As soon as the expansion gets up, or close to, it is pretty much as soon as it gets up, Happy breaks upkeep. And get ready for it, guys. Get ready for it. He got Claws +12. Yeah. Look at the Lich. Now he's gotten lucky. Okay, at this point in the game, now he's gotten lucky. Although an Aura would probably be better. Khadgar's would certainly be better here, right? But still pretty good. Still pretty good. Happy doesn't know what the tech timing is. But he's going to force Foggy back now. He's going to be able to get a count of, like, how many Dryads do I see? Do I see, like, 65, 70 supply Dryads, or is it a little less? Then can I assume you're going to Bears? Stuff like that.
Summoning is complete.
Look how much the Lich is doing as he kills a Dryad.
Our forces are
We'll keep an eye on what the army is. No sort of abominations yet. Just getting 2 statues, has a single destroyer. He'll probably morph a second destroyer once he can. I would say that this game it was lucky, but he's always actively searching for those items. Happy, I mean, people talk about item luck for players. People say like Hitman's item hack, or Happy always gets the best items. Yes, they get good items, but they get items because they take the risk and they're proactively searching for those items every single time. People say, oh, Focus always gets the best items. It's because Focus solo creeps his Blade Master at camps just to gobble up the item and then move immediately to the next camp. The players that always seem to get good items are always searching for those good items. This is certainly not a fight that Happy would win. Doesn't have enough Fiends yet. He needs to trade his Ghouls out for more Fiends. This is a position where 120 actually got a second Crypt, which is something Happy doesn't seem to like. But he does like getting Abominations, which he is going to get. Does he have Disease Cloud already? One thing 120 didn't get is Disease Cloud before breaking. He did not. And again, I mean, if I was in Happy's shoes, I'd be trying to look for value with these Ghouls, because eventually, or even at this point, they're not very useful, but a very well-timed fight right before the Master Training finishes. Happy maybe, you know, just sort of intuitively understood this timing, but of course he hasn't actually scouted when the Tier 3 was being teched this game. Something that he did very actively on Tidehunters, or at least attempted to. Did I say 120? Happy. And again, you know, a good timing, but it was still like a lot of Ghouls for Happy. So it was a tough fight to win, but I think he still traded fine. And what is he doing? Well, trading. And he's not losing this fight, right? But he's not winning it either. He's lost quite a few, but he's also killed quite a few units. The supplies are relatively equal. Close to. And Foggy's about to lose a couple more units. Look. Look. Another expansion. Albeit scouted, but even though it's scouted, if you both trade your entire armies and all your mana, can the player that lost their entire army and all their mana aggress the player that lost their entire army and all their mana? No, neither player can. They'll have to heal up, get items again, get mana again, get units again. So Happy's using this to his advantage. Is Foggy doing the same? Maybe. No, he isn't. So sick. He pushes with purpose yet again. He wants to trade the useless ghouls out that are not going to get a lot of value in the future. Especially against orbs and high-level entangle and lots of dryads. Not going to get a lot of value. He's trading them out. And he traded out a lot of fiends, to be fair to him as well. But he traded them out and using the push for a purpose, which is to secure another base. Very PogChamp. And the Lich is kind of owning. And like I said, not the best fight for Happy. It's not like he just won the game here entirely, but he didn't trade badly at all. Again, there's still even supply.
Our town is under attack.
But the point I'm trying to make is that wasn't supposed to be a push that just wins the game for Happy at all. In some cases, yes, it might just win the game because he's Happy and he's got very good micro, but that wasn't the intention. This was. Let's take a look at the upgrades. 3-0. Is he getting an armor upgrade for the Fiends? Not quite yet, but I would assume he would get an armor upgrade for the Fiends before... Actually, in this case, he has 3 Abominations. I'd probably favor an armor upgrade for the Abominations. Wouldn't be too bad. Now Happy just chilling. Note, the entire map is crept out. Yes, there is 1 green camp left that probably is crept. Yep, we didn't actually see it on in our game yet. But the whole map is crept out. That is generally when you'll go for this next base. That's when the Night Elf will do it a lot of the times. That's when Happy goes for it a lot of the times. Because there's nothing left to contest. Like, how are you supposed to build this expansion when you have to be contesting this red camp? You can't, because you're trying to contest this red camp, and then the Night Elf is sending treants over to cancel your expansion. It's very difficult to accomplish both those things at the same time. And you, of course, can't push your opponent's base to buy space for an expansion if your opponent is just going to creep a red camp. Right? So there's less goals on the map. Therefore, I can build the expansion safely. Level 5 from a Wisp. Can't complain with that. How many statues does he have? He's got 2 destroyers, and he's building 2 more statues. Seems like a lot of abominations. This is a big difference from the game before, where we saw, of course, 2 meat wagons, but that was because it was very dryad heavy, whereas this game, when it's much earlier bears from the Night Elf, he seems to be preferring abominations. Pops 2 destroyers. Again, 3 destroyers seems to be the Goldilocks zone that Happy likes to sit in, as well as 1-2-0. Only the difference this time is there's only destroyers for anti-air, which are a much weaker anti-air than hippogriffs. I would say if Happy himself went for dual crypt and had many more fiends here, this fight would be probably a lot easier on him. But because he only has 1 crypt, this is the reason why he's gone for so many abominations, because he has to spend his gold somehow. He's only got 2 production buildings. But if he had double crypt like 1-2-0, he would have been able to produce a lot more fiends, and the dryads would be a lot worse, and then the destroyers would be better because the dryads are worse. So maybe overall, I kind of like the second crypt that 1-2-0 gets. Well, I'd say that's, like, objectively true. Would you say, the question was, would you say, with the Mountain Giant nerf, Foggy's odds for winning versus Happy are worse? I'd say any nerf would make a Night Elf's odds worse at beating someone else, right? Any nerf to their race directly, regardless of what the nerf is. But for Happy, I mean, Happy versus Foggy, I mean, I don't think Foggy was going Mountain Giants too often in the past, right? So I don't think it's a huge deal. I certainly don't think it's a game-breaking nerf for Mountain Giants. I think they'll still be played in the future, but any nerf would lower the odds slightly, though, I would say. Yeah, this is a lot of abominations, I have to say. It's a lot of abominations. Okay, now he's getting a second slaughterhouse. He's out of his mind. Out of his mind. Yeah, bears did get buffed. Yeah, bears did get buffed. by much more than Mountain Giants got nerfed. Now he gets an armor upgrade. Did he get an armor upgrade for the Abominations? Nope. So prioritizing just the Fiend upgrades. Doesn't care about the A-Bomb upgrades quite yet. Well, Orb of Corruption did get nerfed. It used to be -5 armor. Now it's -4. It actually doesn't say it in the tooltip. But yeah, it's -4 armor. It used to be -5. Which is 6% less on the armor reduction, something like that. I forget.
Summoning is complete. Our forces are under attack.
Well, it certainly should. Orb of Corruption should not be nerfed by a huge percent, though. Nothing should be nerfed by a huge percent. Lots of Abominations. Double Slaughterhouse Abomination. This is really interesting. I suppose the reason why Happy's doing this is because Foggy, if we look to his base, he's not playing Hippogriffs. He does have another base himself now. He's not playing Hippogriffs. He doesn't have an Ancient of Wind. So perhaps if there is Ancient of Wind, as we saw 120 doing, he got 2 Crypt for Fiends so that he could web the Hippogriffs and pump Destroyers to deal with the Bears. Whereas when there's just Dryads to counter the Destroyers, Happy prefers to get more Abomination heavy and still have Fiends in the back. Right? Maybe that's the idea. I don't know for certain, but that's the difference I'm seeing. That's the difference I'm seeing here. Interesting. Yeah, double the percent, 1% to 2%.
Summoning is complete.
Now both players are on 3 bases. For at least the time being, for another 30 seconds. And of course, Undead is favored on even economy versus Night Elf, I would argue. Are there any Abomination upgrades? Still, no Abomination upgrades. No more upgrades, in fact, at all. Yeah, that glaive buff was pretty crazy. Oh, now there's Hippogriffs. Did I miss a wind earlier? This is the only Hippogriff, though, right? He must have built it right after I checked his base, unless I missed it. But now he's got... But he didn't when Happy decided to go to Slaughterhouse, right? So, now he's got a single wind. Again, unless I'm missing a second wind. No, he's got a single wind, which is not going to be enough to justify many more Fiends than Happy has, of course. Demon Hunter's about to die. Oh, the Demon Hunter could have easily died there had it been a Coil Nova. And if you're able to push the game to this super late game scenario, where you both have 90 supply, you both have 5/5 heroes, the Undead's favored. Because you have Fiends that counter the Dryads, you have Destroyers that counter the Bears, your heroes are better than theirs because they have a hero that falls off after there's Destroyers up in the air. Undead's just favored if you can push it to the late game, which is why I think going for this 3rd base as opposed to trying to all in the mid game is such a great choice for Happy. Because he's forcing Foggy into the super late game. This is the ultra late game, when the main bases are ran out and every base is taken on the map. This is what Remo would call the ultra late game, I believe is the term he uses. And that's because, like, if Foggy goes for, like, a Warden, or a Demon Hunter Panda, or Warden Panda, or Demon Hunter Naga, Foggy can bang in the late game, but he goes for Keeper. He sacrifices the late game to have a early game map control advantage with the Keeper. It's not saying that Undead is broken because they're favored at this stage. It's because Foggy goes for the Keeper. And the point of that is for him to get an earlier expansion, for him to have map control throughout the early game. That's what he sacrifices. He sacrifices this stage of the game, and that's what Happy's taking advantage of by surviving this long, by playing the long con, by getting a lot of bases. And there's a lot of abominations that seem to be serving their purpose. The Lich items also help quite a bit. Let's not forget this is plus 31 on those Lich. But again, this is the exact situation that Happy wants to find himself in. He wants to go late. And GG is called. Pretty neat. Now we have one last replay, and then we'll compare and contrast, and then we'll finish up. So this replay now will be 1-2-0 against Colorful on the same map, same matchup. Pretty similar strategy from the Night Elf. But let's see what 1-2-0 does. Let's see if there's any differences, if he does anything differently. All right, let's check it out. Here is replay 4. Let's go right into it. Pause for every hand. All right, here's 1-2-0. Again, going for the ghouls. Nothing changes, or some things at least don't change. And here's Colorful. Here he is Race Demon Hunter. It is Colorful. Very strong player. Extremely strong player. I mean, wait, let's hold up. Just because we're doing an episode analyzing the undead side of things, and I pick replays where the undead is very successful in defeating Night Elf, because we're trying to learn from the undeads that are successful in these games against the Night Elves, does not mean that the strategy that the Night Elf is doing is not good. Because I downloaded about 100 replays, and it's relatively 50-50. These are replays that are handpicked to show you when the undead does everything right, or most things right, that this strat works, and it's very good against the standard. But there's plenty of replays where the Night Elf just wins, right? This is about an undead. This is about learning undead. This is not about learning Night Elf. This is not to say that Night Elf, this strat is bad. These are handpicked replays. They're handpicked replays. I'm not going to show you where the undead loses unless I need to for a purpose, which I have in the past. That wouldn't make much sense. This is Undead Day. The Undead's gonna win every replay. Most cases, right? That's why. This isn't a bad Night Elf strategy. The strategy works super well. The next strategy episode will be Night Elf as well, by the way. The strategy totally works from the Night. This is a great strategy from the Night Elves. It's a great strategy. It absolutely works. I mean, and there is Happy is like 5 times better than every other player in Europe as well. So the fact that anyone can beat Happy ever in Europe is just, shows in and of itself the matchups are playable, right? And I will say, in Asia, I actually struggled to find replays where 1-2-0 won, if that helps.
A player's forces are under attack.
But let's check out what happens here. Now, did we not see a Scout Acolyte? I was distracted. Let me restart the replay. Did we not see a Scout Acolyte? Which, of course, we did from Happy. I might be wrong. Let's double check. Maybe it's late. No Scout Acolyte thus far.
Is complete. Summoning is complete.
And it's also worth noting I did an entire episode on the Night Elf side of this strategy, too. So if you want to understand what sort of mistakes the Night Elves are making when they lose these games from today, you can go watch that episode, and maybe you'll understand the Night Elf side of things a bit better. If you don't already. I'm not saying you don't. Maybe you do understand it perfectly, but I'm just saying. If you're confused as to why the Night Elves are losing, you can go check that. And we're seeing something a little bit different from 120. Sells the Town Portal, buys the Sacrificial Skull, doesn't build the Scout Acolyte because he doesn't care about scouting because he's going to go for a fast expansion. Why is this viable on this map? Well, of course, the expansion is very easy to creep. This is the Echo Isles expansion camp. This is the Last Refuge expansion camp. Both of those maps are very viable to go for fast expansions on, just like the Night Elf does as well. So we're going to see 120 take a wildly different approach from Happy. Wildly different. Viable, absolutely, but a approach that Happy would not make on this map because he doesn't play fast expansions. Because again, Happy's idea is, I want to play it safe for the early game until I have destroyers. I want to survive, and then push it to the late game. Yeah, 120 will most likely scout with a skeleton had he not got harassed like this, but he is going to get harassed. Is there anything he could have done to avoid this? Well, he could have Acolyte scouted to avoid this. Right? Could have. Didn't. Gonna get harassed. Gonna lose 2 ghouls. He lost 2 ghouls to Moon as well. Game losing? No. Rough? Yes. Of course, seeing as though Colorful also sees the Sacrificial Skull in the No Town Portal, so he knows what's going on. He knows there's going to be an expansion attempt. Some of this could have been avoided with an Acolyte Scout, which I would have said is good, because then again, you can use it to expand. Still, you can scout with the Acolyte and then still use it to expand if you don't lose it, but... just going to continue to produce ghouls. And eventually you kind of have to just go for the expansion creep. So he's going to do it. He knows eventually, this is a comforting fact, eventually the Keeper is going to run out of mana. Yes, he loses almost 4 ghouls, loses 3. But now the Keeper's out of mana. And archers against ghouls aren't actually the end of the world. So you're going to take some losses. But, you know, you kind of have to take some losses for the Keeper to run out of mana. Okay, so he loses 3 ghouls. Almost 4, almost 5. Okay, he does lose 5. He lost this one down here. But the harass is soon over and the expansion is going to be secured. And just going to continue to produce ghouls. Again, prioritizing the Nerubian and the gold mine. No need for a necropolis this early. The Death Knight chases the ghouls back to, or the Death Knight chases the archers back to ensure his expansion will be safe from being sort of canceled. And the ghouls stay here to ensure that the Keeper is not going to come back. But of course, 120 knows the Keeper's very low on mana. He doesn't have another set of Treants, and an Entangle wouldn't really stop this expansion. Only Treants may. And of course, 120 sees the Keeper going back. He knows where the archers are. He knows most likely there's a Tree of Life here. There's a Tree of Life. So he knows he's able to bring the ghouls across. Like, he might lose some to Entangle, but he's a different sort of game. It's not the conservative, I need to keep all my ghouls alive in the early game because I want to go for a strong tier 3 timing. This is pure chaos. We're both going to lose a lot. I'm going to get my expansion up. I'm going to cancel yours. We're both going to lose archers and ghouls and stuff, but I'm going to be doing this with an expansion to my back. Right? So you don't have to be as clean with saving every single unit here, which is why the ghouls are just going to come across the map. And similarly, we saw Happy do the same. But he did the same in a much more safe regard, when he knew there wouldn't be like archers or anything to kill the ghouls, to follow up the damage. But still, this is all for a purpose. This is to delay a potential expansion creep from Colorful so that he can keep his expansion as the only one on the map and also keep his safe. I'd say it's more aggressive, but it's more aggressive with a purpose, right? He's trying to delay this creep, and he's trying to keep this safe, which he has now successfully crept this safe, and he's still going to try to delay this a little bit, I would imagine. Delay the creeping of it, so that there can't be an immediate counter expansion.
Upgrade complete. Summoning is complete.
One coil. And like I said, both players are going to lose units here, but it's not like it's the end of the world to lose ghouls when you're playing an expansion, because of course, you can afford it. And the tech's already coming in. Got plenty of lumber. Get a second crypt if you want to. Not the end of the world to trade ghouls if you're playing two bases. If you're playing one base, you want to be a little bit safe, or you want to keep your ghouls for the timing, like I said. But in this situation, totally happy. Buys the Staff of Teleportation. Not for the same purpose as Happy buys the Staff of Teleportation, I would argue. Because he sold his town portal. That's why he bought it. Because he sold his town portal. He is using it, however, to harass the expansion creeping, but with no Lich, with no level 3 Death Knight. But now he's going to staff back to the ghouls and try to get level 3. And again, he's doing this when he already gained the information of where the Keeper were. Some things don't change, even if you're playing fast expansion. And what's the transition? He's going to get a second crypt and a graveyard when his tier 2 is about 50% done. Let's see how many ghouls he's lost. I think 5 ghouls this game, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where's the 3 supply? Of course it is. The 5 supply extra is in Acolytes. Okay. So he builds 9 ghouls. He lost 5, but he still goes back to the standard number of ghouls after the early game. He's at 9. I said at the beginning of the day, 8, 9, or 10 is the standard number of ghouls. At 1-2-0, although he lost some of the early game, he continues to keep that number up and then going into a second crypt. And we probably won't see him build any more ghouls here. We're either going to see Gargs with the graveyard and the 2 crypts, or we're going to see Fiends. We'll keep an eye on what he goes for. Lose the ghoul, down to 8. Make that 6, he's lost.
Our town is under attack.
Some aggression that would be a lot easier to deal with had 1-2-0 prioritized level 3 Death Knight, which is something he didn't do kind of either game. He didn't prioritize it as much as Happy does, which makes this, like, level 2 coil against archers is just so strong. Even if there's level 1 mana burn, still you're able to get at least a coil off, which is very good against archers. Extremely good. You can go for a lot of value with that. Okay, we'll see what the units being produced are. It is Double Fiends and immediate tier 3 tech. So it's pretty much a standard game for 1-2-0. Like I said, same amount of ghouls, 8 he has now. He's going for Fiends and he's going for quick tier 3 tech. And he'll get a Lich and he'll get his Slaughterhouse. So it's the same sort of thing, just instead of having 1 crypt, you get 2 crypts much earlier. The same idea. Searching for where the Demon Hunter is creeping. He finds the Demon Hunter now, so he will go down here to try to delay the Demon Hunter's creeping. And I imagine a Lich would be coming out. There's the Lich.
Our forces are under attack.
Mana burns exchange, but 1-2-0 is happy because the Demon Hunter is not creeping, and of course, he would love to have Death Knight level 3, but he knows he's just 1 wisp off of that level up. So, delaying the Demon Hunter this whole time he's happy to do that. And he's still got the Staff of Teleportation, so he can be aggressive like this. Because if he gets entangled, he'll just staff away. Now the Lich is out, 3 Fiends, he knows the positioning of the Keeper, so he's going to try to creep, albeit the Keeper's being a little bit aggressive right now, so he's got to be a little safer. As we see, the Fiends are kind of hiding, and the Lich is coming up to try to protect them. And Slaughterhouse statue coming out. Standard stuff, right?
Summoning.
Now, what does the Keeper give you? Well, the Keeper, of course, gives you access to both of these middle camps. Just like on Last Refuge, the Keeper allows you to get both shops most of the time. On Echo Isles, the Keeper may allow you to get the marketplace and the shop because you have map control with Entangle. The Undead cannot bring their units out, as he might actually lose his Acolyte, but he's got another Necropolis, and no fear. The Undead cannot really bring his units out before he has Destroyers. Therefore, the Night Elf can creep aggressively and get these valuable camps on the map, and that's what we're seeing Colorful do right now. He's using the map control that the early game Keeper of the Grove gives you to get value out on the map, and this is value that 120 will get back in the late game, but he's not able to reciprocate right now, at least. But he's trying to, with just the heroes, if he can. Maybe a Nova last hit. See, he's trying to get little bits back, but he can't get the majority of the value. One Acolyte actually did fall. Pretty nicely done by Colorful. There's no way he gets a bear here. No way. Tier 3 about to be finished. This is around the time, remember, when on Tidehunters both players would go for the lab. And this is also around the time when both players would go for their expansion. But now 120 is hitting his somewhat power spike. He's getting his orb. He's going to have Destroyers soon. He's already broken upkeep, so although he has fast expanded this game, and his power spike is about 2 minutes late, it's 10.5 minutes into the game right now, whereas the power spike's normally at 8.5 minutes on one base. Power spike, nevertheless. Is he getting Frenzy? He is getting Frenzy. He's going to have Destroyers soon. He doesn't have level 3 Lich, which he would love to have, but his creeping was a bit slowed down. But he's got everything he needs. He's still strong. Just because it's a little bit later doesn't mean it's not still a power spike, right? So he's going to use the timing to go for a push.
Our town is under attack.
So this game actually looks very similar to what a one-base game would look like. Just everything's a little bit later.
Research complete.
And because it's a little bit later, Colorful already has bears, he already has orb. But if 120 can deal with the Dryads and the Archers, with the Fiends and the Ghouls, which is relatively easy to do, he can pop 2 Destroyers and the bears are no longer too scary.
Our forces are under attack.
Back at home, producing more statues, any sort of upgrades yet. He's got 2-0 on his Fiends. Frenzy on the Ghouls. Destroyer in the air, heal scroll. And he's threatening to kill the expansion. So now the cool thing about going for this fast expansion is you're still able to use the same power spike, assuming your tech isn't extremely delay. But instead of using the power spike to secure the expansion, you already have the expansion, so you can use the power spike for different things. You can use it to contest camps on the map if you want. You can use it to push their expansion and try to kill it. You can use it for different reasons than just securing your expansion, because that is already dealt with in the early game. So it's sort of the reverse order of things, and then 120 is using this for something else, which is kind of a cool way of playing it. But it's the same timing. It's the same army composition, the same heroes. Same upgrades, same all that. Night Elf is doing the same thing, you know? There's going to be a third statue here soon, and then look to see 120 probably morph both of these into Destroyers. I think that would be definitely the right call. One, 2, 0. I said I think it would be the right call. That's when you're supposed to morph both the Destroyers. I mean, statues, I mean, don't get me wrong. Having both the statues here on heal and mana is extremely valuable, but Rejuve and the bears are getting quite a lot of value. And this is certainly, although 120 may not win the game here because Colorful is going to TP out, get full health and mana, and come back, he's still trading very favorably. So this is giving him an advantage in the later stages of the game. Like, he might have to town portal out now because if we look, health, mana, and the supplies are even, but this was still a very good fight for 120. Goes back, gets heal scroll invuln, very important. One thing he was lacking towards the tail end of that fight was 1 mana and 2 safety on his heroes, which I suppose is partially due to not having mana. He didn't use the scroll of beast either. Oh wait, he just got it, sorry. He did have one before. My mistake. And after he gets all those things, dots all of his eyes, he comes back to the expansion. Because again, he traded favorably before. He's got more items, he's got more mana. Drops the scroll of the beast on the ground. Why not? Yeah, why not drop it on the ground? Who cares? Drop it on the ground. Little bit of a rough positioning, so he town portals away. Killed a bear. Didn't lose much, if anything. Totally fine. Lots of creeps still on his side of the map, right? Still, he's got this. He's still got both greens. He's got red camp. Colorful does as well, but again, the heroes for the undead scale better than the night elves. So if you're both creeping 1-to-1, you're both on even economy, you're both on even supply, it will favor the undead if you're both creeping big camps. Did he actually give the scroll away? That's funny. I didn't actually notice that. Did Colorful probably sold it already, but yeah, he sold it already. That's hilarious. I can only imagine he tried to pass it to one of his heroes, but misclicked and forgot about it. I don't know. Or maybe he was mad that he got double scroll the beast, so he just gave it away. I have no idea. Just 1-2-0 things, I suppose. Oh, looks like both players on this map got very good liches.
Our forces are under attack.
Actually, 120 got the best drops from all 3 of his permanent item camps, which you can't complain about. Again, Khadgars would probably be better than Claws plus 12, but you certainly can't complain with a plus 30 lich. Yeah, we'll never understand why he gave away the scroll, right? Again, we're back to where we were when we played Moon on Tidehunters. We see our Night Elf opponent is going into Hippogriffs, so we want to take fights where we trade off a couple of units for all the Hippogriffs, and then disengage, and then re-engage with Destroyers to kill the bears, and keep killing the Hippogriffs, so that they can't get this critical mass of like 12 Hippogriffs. I'm not exactly sure what the proper number would be, but of course more Hippogriffs than you have Fiends. Because then the Destroyers are just dead immediately, and then the bears just kill all your Fiends, right? So you need to deal with those Hippogriffs consistently. Thanks, Blizzard.
Research complete.
120, happy to creep. I swear to God if he gets Claws plus 12 again. I actually legitimately don't remember if he did or not. He might. He might actually get it. Yet again, another expansion, which might be canceled because 120 isn't really pressuring to buy space for this expansion, but what he is doing is almost giving Colorful an ultimatum. You can stop me from creeping the red, or you can stop me from re-expanding. In this case, Colorful doesn't do either, as it seems, but still, this is an ultimatum. You're happy to get either the red camp or your expansion. You're especially happy to get both. No issues, right? Which is why this is actually a good expansion timing for 120, albeit it might get canceled. Oh, so I was wrong. He is trying to stop one, but in doing this, he can't stop the expansion. Oh my God, he got another Claws plus 12. All right. Had to drop the mantle, which is a little unfortunate, but this is a plus 39 lich. Jesus. That's a whole lot of claws. Yet again, a whole lot of claws.
Summoning is complete.
And look how far away this red camp is from the expo. Look at it. There is absolutely no way this expansion gets canceled. And if 120 wants to get 2 ziggurats up, similar to what we said Happy should have done on Tidehunters earlier, it'd be very easy to defend this expansion. That's a very good move by 120, the timing of this expansion. Now we have to scout a couple things. We have to scout if Colorful is going for a gold mine. We also would like to see just how many hippogriffs he has so we can be prepared for the fight, but I think 120 is in a pretty good position. Wouldn't mind a mana pot. Not the end of the world. Got double invuln. Trying to get DK5, which you will actually get. Extremely useful. And now we're at that situation where the Night Elves heroes just aren't that good. Well, I won't say heroes. I'll say hero. Just isn't that good. And the Undead has extremely strong high-level heroes. And oh my god, he's even going to get this camp. Which is being contested. But still can probably gobble up that item. Talisman, not the best. And see, this is starting to get scary, right? This might be a position where 120 has to kite back here, Nova the hippogriffs, web them, try to kill about 3 or 4 of them, and then town portal away as he's doing that. And he might have to do that a couple times, because this is at the point where there's enough hippogriffs that although there's a lot of fiends, the destroyers are no longer really that useful. So this is a kind of a scary number. 3, 6, 10 hippogriffs. So yeah, if there's like 10 to 12, it starts to get a little bit scary. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 120 town portal out here, because he can be happy that he has this and Colorful doesn't have this. But town portal out after killing a couple of these, because you still want to be trying to lower the numbers if possible. But let's see if he actually takes the fight. I would be surprised to see him actually straight up take it. And in the Mac, I mean, he started this fight very well, actually. This is very good kiting so far. All the hippogriffs are out of position. Oh, they were illusions. Oh. Ooh. I saw one illusion, didn't I? Do illusions even drop on this map? I swear I saw an illusion pop. Maybe I'm wrong. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Maybe give Lich crits. Okay, and a town portal out. Oh, there are illusions. Where do illusions drop on this map? Am I stupid? Where do they drop? I don't remember. Whatever. But yeah, so that was a perfect engagement for 120. He stayed there for the perfect amount of time. He killed some hippogriffs. He got out. He didn't overcommit. And now he's in a position where, what are the hippogriff numbers? Let's check it out. 1. 1. So yeah, maybe he lost his town portal, maybe he lost a couple units, but there's 1 hippogriff left. And look how bear heavy this army is. 5 bears. This is not enough anti-air to deal with destroyers. And that's why it's important to take these sorts of fights and to realize that you're not going to be able to just fight and win immediately, but what you are going to be able to do is drastically reduce the amount of hippogriffs, which means your destroyers can kill the bears, and that's how you win in these late game situations without having the most fantastic micro in the world. Just try to reduce the numbers of hippogriffs and get out. And that's why we see 120 also prioritizing 2 Crypt Fiends. Even on the game where he played 1 base throughout the early game, he still prioritized having 2 Crypt Fiends over 2 Slaughterhouses when he was up against Bear Hippo. Because you need lots of Fiends to kill lots of Hippogriffs. And now we're in a great position. We got this base up. We kill all the Hippogriffs. We know Colorful doesn't have this quite yet. The main bases should be out soon. 700 gold. And yeah, we're just going to have to town portal here, not the end of the world at all. And we're 100 supply, and look how War 3 booster bugs out when you hit 100 supply. 7 characters is too much. That's the limit. Oh, 120 actually gets that 1 armor upgrade that we've been talking about. A slight difference, right? But, of course, when we have an 100 supply army, unless our opponent is also 100 supply, we definitely would like to act. So, what would 120 love to do now? He would love to either kill this expansion or indefinitely stop this expansion from ever happening. Feels like 120 crept the whole map. Yeah, it definitely feels like he did. But he crept the whole map because he was able to gain map control from this initial push he did with that power spike at 10 minutes. After that, he crept the whole map. He got both reds. For some reason, this was a mistake for Colorful to allow 120 to get that. I don't know why Colorful hadn't crept that. But don't forget that Colorful also got both of these middle camps in the early game. So these are both powerful camps to get, but then 120, when he was strong, he also got both red camps, and he was able to get this. And a couple extra green camps, right? But they both got camps when they were strong. With the exception of that expansion, I think both players got the camps that were rightfully theirs, and maybe Colorful should have gotten a red camp as well. So maybe there was 2 camps that 120 got that he shouldn't have. Maybe. What does map control mean? Map control means one player is stronger at a certain point in the game, therefore the other player must play more defensive, giving up portions of the map to the player that is stronger. So the Night Elf player in this case had a keeper in the early game, which is very good and gives you map control. Therefore, the Night Elf player was able to get these camps because the undead could not fight the Night Elf over these camps. When the undead player 120 pushed the expansion and was very strong when he pushed, he won the fight at the expansion. Therefore, the Night Elf had to be more defensive and gave up map control of the map to the undead, which allowed the undead to use that control of the map to take both red camps. That's what map control is. It just means you're stronger, therefore you have control of the map to do what you want. Whether that be to expand, whether that be to push, whether that be to creep more, whether that be to AFK in your base. The map is yours to do what you wish. No worries, Ascal. Level 5 Lich. And again, if we get to the late game, even if the supplies are even, the undead is in a good spot here, right? The undead's happy to be in this position. Got 100 supplies, got 5/5 heroes. 120 might even get a Dark Ranger at this point, but he's happy. This is totally fine. We killed all the hippogriffs earlier, which actually was only 7, not 10 hippogriffs. This is totally fine. Again, like I said, 120 has to use his 100 supply army to do something. He's using it to try to kill this tree. Is this a position where 120 could town portal out after he kills all these hippogriffs? Absolutely, if he wanted to. And then re-push immediately again. I think that'd be totally fine. Kill all of these and then town portal away. And if that was his plan, this might be a little bit late, but I mean, he's got the bigger army. He's got the better heroes. Perhaps he just feels he can win, and who's to blame him? This might be like... Okay, now he's town portaling out. So this may have been a fight in which 120 overstayed a little bit, but he was still much stronger than Colorful, and now 84 against 53. And Colorful knows that 120 is just going to push again. Because all of his hippogriffs are dead, 120 can just morph all these destroyers. Bears are going to be useless. Drives will be useless against the fiends. And 120 wins. With honestly, a much better game than we saw him play on Tidehunters, I gotta say. That was a very strong game from 120. Positionally, strategically, what he crept, when he crept. Those are the 4 replays. What are some differences between the 2 players on Autumn Leaves? So the main one would be Fast Expo versus Tier 3 Expo. Happy would priority level 3 DK for Happy. That's the difference. What else? 2 Crypt Fiends versus 2 Slaughterhouse. SH is Slaughterhouse. But of course, these differences were with purpose. The 2 Crypt Fiends was for Hippogriffs. for the web on the hippogriffs. The 2 slaughterhouse was for abominations against the dryad heavy army of Foggy. Right, so this is with purpose, but still an important difference. Any other big differences? Of course, the fast expansion versus tier 3 expansion is a very big difference because that's a strat that Happy will not do. And we saw 120 is able to play both, which is a good thing to be able to do, is to be able to mix up fast expansion play versus 1-base play versus cheese play, like 2 crypt ghouls or something. It's important to be able to do many different strategies and for your opponent to have to fear many different strategies. I did an entire episode on that with Night Elf, but it's important to do that. I think it's important for your opponent to have to think, is he expanding or is he playing 1-base or is he going to cheese me at the start of the game? Because that makes your opponent play either too safe or too greedy, and you can capitalize on that. Why is Poison Cloud? So Disease Cloud is what it's called, so valuable on abominations. Well, it's good. As we saw 120 take a lot of short fights there, we saw him engage into the Night Elf, kill all the hippogriffs, and in doing so, he got Disease Cloud on all the bears and the dryads. And then you town portal away, and the Disease Cloud still does damage after you town portal away. It does damage, does damage, does damage. And then you re-engage because you just killed all the hippogriffs, and you healed up and got more mana. And the Disease Cloud this whole time has been fighting for you, essentially. Which is why it's really good. It's good for short fights that you town portal out of after getting value, and then re-engage afterwards. It's also very strong against Dryads, because Dryads are low health, and they also have mana, which makes you have to use much more Moonwell mana to heal them up. There's a lot of reasons for it. And also rejuves aren't entirely efficient to use on a single Dryad, stuff like that. All right, that's it. Are there any questions before we finish up? How long was it? Oh, we did 3 hours. Clean 3 hours, nice. No 3 hours and 40 minutes with a 2-hour intro, none of that, none of that. Clean 3 hours, clean 3 hours. Seems like Undead always wins at the top level. Well, let me just, okay, let me go to my replay folder. Let me go to my, I'm opening up the replay folder. Ah, good. Okay, here, I'm going to go back to my game. I'm going to show you guys the replays that I went through to get this episode prepared, okay? And this is how I do the show. This is how I do the show, because there's a lot of people that talked about this today. Like, oh, the Night Elf can never win with this strategy. I download every replay from a certain matchup, and then I organize them into the player I want to win won, the player I want to win lost. And then I organize those into heroes and strategies and try to find patterns where they played one specific strategy, and they also won with it. So here are all the replays I downloaded of 120. I'll show you the games that he won and all the games that he lost for all the replays I downloaded. Okay, so here's my folder for Happy. These are my folders for 120. Here are the games that he won. These are also games that he won. Here's 2 of them. Here are the games that he lost. Let's go to, what about versus Orc? Here's the games that he won with Death Knight, with Crypt Lord. Here's the games that he lost. Okay, he's got a pretty good win rate against Orc. What about Human? Let's see. Well, Happy, of course, is better than everyone in Europe, so he wins versus everyone, but 120, you know, is with DK against Human, is with Crypt Lord against Human. Here's the games he lost. Got a pretty good win rate against Human. Note, though, the matchup that he did not have a good win rate against was against Night Elf, which is the matchup that everyone, well, some people were saying, like, oh, there's no chance for the Night Elf to win. No. Actually, that was the only matchup that 120 had a negative win rate in from the replays that I downloaded. Right? But still, I mean, certainly there are places to speak about balance, and there are some things that are imbalanced, but the idea behind this show is to not say that there are no solutions to things and things are unbeatable and that races cannot win in certain matchups. The idea behind this show is to say there's always a way to play better, there's always a way to improve, and there's always a new strategy that you can work on in order to beat a race that you're struggling against. That's the whole idea behind this. There are always solutions more than there are complaints, or there should be. or at least I try to push that narrative, right? Yeah, and Happy's the best undead in the world, and he's much better than most European players. And European players are still very good, but he is leagues above even the second best player in Europe, Foggy. So yes, Happy does not lose, but you know, other undeads in Europe do. All the undeads in Asia do. It's just Happy. But yeah, I think it's an important thing to touch on still, though, for sure. All right, guys. Well, like I said, interview with X-Lord on Tuesday, which we can talk about how Imba Undead is. He'll be happy to do that. If you guys have any questions, make sure to post them in the Discord or email me, whatever. Any questions for X-Lord? Here's when it is. Tuesday, June 22nd at 9 p.m. CEST, noon PEST, PST, Pacific time, and 3 p.m. Eastern time. And if you can't make it live on Tuesday, I will upload it to YouTube at the time that it would have been streamed on Thursday. So either way, you can catch it. Very excited to talk to X-Lord. Haven't spoken to him much, but every time I have, seems like a cool guy. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. When are you gonna upload it to YouTube? This will be uploaded tonight, so it'll probably be on YouTube by early Friday morning, 5 a.m. Friday morning, something around there. Which right now it's 4 p.m. for me, so in about maybe 12 hours it'll be on YouTube. Let's say. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Appreciate everyone in the chat. I appreciate you guys always commenting and talking about the matchups and talking about the replays we're watching. Really appreciate it, guys. Show wouldn't be what it is without you guys watching and without you guys commenting on YouTube and all that stuff and you guys, talking about the show. Appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday. I'm going to go enjoy the sun. Play some guitar outside. That sounds like a great plan. Goodbye.